are dropping. Now, you might ask, why are the numbers in Texas dropping every day? And it's the V word. Okay, the research is in.
So you're not counting all the cases.
Dawn,
you're not counting all the cases. All the people that get asymptomatic, you're not counting.
Yeah, I'm pretty frustrated about this this announcement by the National Advisory Board. We have nobody in our government for all the mistakes and the horrible handling of the virus from the start. It's really a disgrace and an insult to all Canadians. Now, with months and months of delays, we're making progress. The vaccines are working. I'm very encouraged. And now we have an appointed body called the National Advisory Board, contradicting everything we've been working towards as for our national health care for the people of Canada. And
you're so creative, Chomo.
No accountability. We need.
So Chomo's very first thing, the instant he can, is to start showing us pictures of us with our eyes closed. What the fuck? Again, things I'm not touching. Jumping on.
Or fire them.
And I think it's funny, if I claim to believe in voodoo, you tell me this is a paranoid, nigger belief thing.
How to do
but
that.
you seem to think it's actually working for you, so it's a real thing. Right.
That's what you think, right? It's a disgrace. And
thank you. Thanks very much. I know you got much more, but we've got many more people who want to get in. Alex in Toronto, you're on Charles Adler tonight. Welcome to the kitchen table.
Yes. Hi there. Thanks. Yeah, this just a little sort of tangent. Just in the news here in Toronto, just over the past couple of days, that since all this has been coming out, that with the Pfizer and the Moderna, now, but with the Pfizer, it's, as I say, a couple of snippets in the news about they're saying that it may not protect against this latest mutant variant.
Come from the news collecting services that would send you every article they could find.
Which to me is very interesting because, I mean, everything's just involving science, right? We're all just learning as we go.
Who's saying?
We're learning as we go. No, we're not.
It was in the papers.
This is all science, bro. It's already established science.
I don't have any credible information that the Pfizer is not the best of breed right now. I don't have any information suggesting that it's not going to protect us. Are some people saying that? Some people say that all the time. I'm not, Alex, please, I'm not trying to accuse you of anything.
You've been told repeatedly by your news wire services
don't have any credible information,
don't work on variants.
And we're moving forward. We're getting 2 million Pfizer doses per week, every week this month. I just don't want to be confusing people. If I have credible information that there's a problem, I will put it out there, but I'm not going to get into this. Some people are saying this, and some people are
doing that part of the law
Alex,
that I have to abide by.
Rick in Winnipeg. Rick, you're up next on Charles Adler tonight.
Reaffirming that he's some sort of authority figure. No, he's not.
Hi, yeah, this vaccine hesitation is not a good thing for the country, and I took my advice from my.
They haven't mentioned vaccine hesitancy in 3 months. You know why?
Doctor, the other one's going for a PhD. So one of the emergency doctors said you don't want to be laying on your stomach asking for your last prep if you have COVID. So the needle's a pretty easy way. And I don't know these people. Why don't they research Israel and other countries that are now not wearing masks? And why don't they research?
Why don't they research? You're not researching. You're reading. You're reading. No research was done.
And I got Pfizer because that rolled up first. But I would have took AstraZeneca, and I'm sick of living in my basement.
I would have done it. I would have done it. Sure, you would have, buddy.
Rick, just in case someone missed it, that was the most important message tonight. Can you please, Rick, repeat what you just said? It has to do with where specifically you're living, and you also referred to an animal. I want to get it from the horse's mouth, as it were. What did you say a few moments ago? I want people to turn the radio up and hear the most important message we've had on this show in a long time. Go ahead. Say it again.
But I'm sick about living it like a rat because, you know, we run the town to get food and we just come home.
Oh.
Say, I want to go to Minneapolis to go.
We're telling you to open up and ventilate, and you think that's living like a rat. Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Trudeau,
where'd this virus come from?
By saying you need a vaccine passport. For those guys, and do not let somebody in the country without COVID vaccine, and do not let somebody out without the vaccine. Then that would speed it up.
You can't. Neither of these are rules. He's too stupid to hear his radio screaming in his ear, the whistling.
Rick,
You can't hear it.
You own me, man. You own me tonight.
You see Charles Adler kissing his ass. No radio host would ever let you do that for 3 fucking minutes.
Basement like a rat. You want to live your life. You want to go to Minneapolis and watch football. You want to go out for beers.
Well, he just swore the government's in charge.
You want to live
I have to do what this guy says the government said, but he doesn't.
And there are people in this country, whether they mean to or not, it doesn't matter. Because it doesn't matter whether it's malicious or incompetence. I tend to feel it's usually incompetence. I don't think that people in government are trying to screw this up. But many of them are screwing it up. And many are
because they are incentivized to fuck things up. They are incentivized to fuck things up.
And I want that to stop. And I know you want it to stop.
There's no disincentive.
And I'm glad that we're both speaking out on this. And I'm glad, frankly, that we're speaking bluntly about it. Because I think some blunt, plain truth needs to be told. And tonight, Rick, you told it. And please call again. And feel free to email me anytime. Charles at CharlesAdlerTonight.com. Look, I'm as you can tell. I feel that the tighter the message, the sharper the message, and frankly, the blunter the message. And yes, you can be sharp and blunt at the same time.
That's right. This vaccine hesitancy has to stop. What vaccine hesitancy?
That makes
all the niggers saying no to the vaccine because Charles said it happened.
There. He's not a rat. He's a human being. And just a few moments, a fresh Canadian common sense right here with Jesse Miller.
You know how many people you just offended? Yeah, the rats. 1/12 of the population in Asia is born in the year of the rat. Yeah. Let's see what else. So it's a little backwards. The mice here are notorious for digging holes and ventilating, opening it up. So telling you must ventilate and stop spitting in people's faces and not rebreathing the same air over and over and over and over is living like a rat. Right. Being a human being is being allowed to spit in people's faces and all, and so on and so forth and so on. This vaccine hesitancy has to stop. Which vaccine hesitancy? They haven't mentioned it in 3 fucking months. Well, they came out and said black people have 50% more cases than the proportional representation. Okay. You need to get over hesitancy. You need to get over hesitancy. You need to get over hesitancy. There's no vaccines for them. Vaccines don't work on these variants. And we're more likely to have ailments that make us immunocompromised, meaning we can't mount the response. The vaccine will not work. It's not magic. It's not some magic chemical that shields and blocks the virus. That's not how it works. You have to stop everybody from coming in and everybody from going out without a vaccine passport. There's vaccine passport. You're going to stop me from leaving the country I'm from or coming back to it? You're stupid. You're stupid. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms dates from like 1981, and these people don't know it. They don't know, but they got all the advice in the world. He yelled into his phone for 3 minutes straight with his own stereo whistling in his ears like that. His own voice echoing and whistling and screaming. Charles refused to take him off the air because he's repeating all the white supremacist bullshit he wants to hear. No radio host would ever do that. 3 minutes of feedback like that? What did you hear? Whistling. That's all I heard. Everything else I heard is because my ears are better than yours because genetics. You don't have to like that. It's true. Well, since we get hunted down.
But they want to make tracks with us before that didn't even crack to us. Going hard in the booth just to take over hard. And the ground into your face that us to make over 2 and 5 or a 2. The rest profit hustlers when I say won't sleep till I knock it. And don't push me cause I ain't in the top. 12-year-old police, why ain't scared if you got it? What's it mean you comparing to? I ain't finished my fair share yet. When that air just started. And I ain't talking about no jump shot, brush them off, don't top. You know the code hurt my tracks. Didn't think I was capable.
You see what you're doing. You see yourself actuating the settings. I keep telling you the thing pops up saying settings isn't working or responding. At what point did I click on that, dumbass? At what point did I ever do what you thought I was going to do next? You've been doing this for a year. 2,500 to 2,000, 2,500 videos. About 100 times each time you've been doing this. You're gonna outsmart me and guess to overcompensate, to compensate for the lag time on his ping time. He's gonna outguess what I'm gonna do next. You're fucking stupid.
AstraZeneca vaccination programs are running low on supply right now, but the federal government
as all sex offenders and child molesters are
doses of AstraZeneca.
All sex offenders, child molesters rate lower than average on the IQ scale. They all think of themselves as being very high on the IQ scale. They all do. They all do. It's kind of similar to 8 out of 10 drivers think they're good drivers. 8 out of 10 drivers are bad drivers.
Critical stage of the pandemic.
All sex offenders think they're above average intelligence.
New heights in Alberta recently.
Bootlickers and police all think that police are smarter than average because there's some sort of test involved. Yeah, if they test above 99 points, they're not allowed to be a car.
Alberta also has more than 23,000 active COVID-19 infections and the highest case rate of any jurisdiction in North America. The NDP is asking the federal government to consider invoking the Emergencies Act in response to the ongoing COVID-19 crisis in Alberta. The emergency legislation would allow Ottawa to shut down interprovincial travel and lock down areas suffering from high case numbers. The ask will be addressed in the House of Commons on Wednesday.
And they tried to say, oh, but they're not counting all the cases in India. I'm going to tell you something. India's got a more advanced medical system and a better way of keeping track of people than Canada does. So, yeah, Alberta's rate is higher than India's.
Dining, indoor events, and gatherings. The directive also allows residents
every day
and
why the numbers aren't up to
fully immunized to have physical contact.
Oh, they don't report on the weekends.
The province said once the current stay-at-home order is lifted, it'll issue further direction that allows social and temporary outings for fully vaccinated residents. Last week, the province said about 94% of long-term care residents.
It's illegal to discriminate that way because the person vaccinated can spread it to the person unvaccinated, but it cannot work the other way. If your vaccine
in the U.S., the former Minneapolis police officer found guilty of murdering George Floyd says the verdict should be impeached because of jury misconduct.
Derek Chauvin's attorney Eric Nelson asking the court for a new trial.
He didn't find in favor of the prevailing case law, which is racist, so therefore it must be wrong.
Nelson said there was prosecutorial and jury misconduct as well. It said all of this violated Chauvin's right to a fair trial. The Minnesota Attorney General's office said in a statement that the court has, quote, already rejected many of these arguments and the state will vigorously oppose them. Mark Remillard, ABC News.
And back in our country, Prime Minister Trudeau says Canada is discussing proof of vaccination requirements for travelers with its partners in Europe as hope emerges for a summer travel season. The Prime Minister says the federal government will align its policy on whether it will require travelers to provide a vaccine certification with its international allies.
You refuse to honor the treaty,
he raised the possibility that Canadians could begin traveling outside the country again by summer. In sports, one matchup in the NHL's North Division. It's early in the second period. The Vancouver Canucks leading the Edmonton Oilers 1-0. Brock Bet.
Don't give a fuck.
Positive test.
You know, because hockey's the most popular sport. No, it's not. It's the official sport. No, it's not.
From hospitals in the capital.
It's a good sport. No, it's not. It's a sport for rich white kids. If the trend
continued, there could be a serious outbreak. Syrian state media says the country's air defenses have intercepted an Israeli attack in the northwest of the country after reporting that a series of explosions had been heard near the coastal city of Latakia. Some reports suggest the target of the attack could have been a plastics factory. Syria said the Israeli attack had also hit the nearby town of Haifa. There's been no independent confirmation.
No, these are illegal acts of war.
Samoa is facing a second general election after last month's poll resulted in political
Russia's
stalemate.
Backing up Syria,
the opposition
Israel's
candidate Fiome Matufa was poised to become the first elective female leader in the Polynesian region when her newly formed party was set to secure a parliamentary majority. Samoa's
Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China on the same side, doesn't it?
21st of May. The English football club Manchester City has reached the final of the European Champions League for the first time in its history. They beat
Advisory Committee on Immunization, and they were the ones yesterday who talked about preferential viruses and preferable viruses and effective viruses. And if you're in a real hotspot and you
all
need
the way along the last year and a half, they've been
away,
making references to laws that don't exist.
It may not be as good as those other viruses those of you who are doing your work at home and not necessarily in hot spots and have a more luxurious life, you can wait and get the Pfizer. Anyway, it was a whole lot of babble. I felt like I was listening to Dr. Oz.
Right, because people with blood disorders are living some luxurious life.
The most serious issue that any of us have had publicly in our lifetime.
I call in and talk, yeah, you're right, I agree.
I want to ask you from a social media perspective.
Mute my fucking line and then start babbling about how I'm actually wrong. He's done it a dozen times this week. Okay.
Does that create an opportunity for all of the people who want to make
anything not white
on social media?
Oh, very much so. And
this guy's white Christian values are Canada.
Or can be expanded on beyond a
When's the last time you mentioned First Nations?
30-second clip in news becomes fuel for a fire in the misinformation war that we see on social media, especially when it confirms bias that individuals already have going into their skepticism about vaccines. I mean, vaccines are without a doubt one of the greatest achievements of modern medicine. Like we can't ignore
They've never been shown to work ever. They've never been shown to work. They've never been tested for efficacy till this year.
Because you got a vaccine.
Until 2020, vaccines were not tested for efficacy.
And the fueling of these dialogues, fueled by either Jenny McCarthy talking about vaccines and autism and citing only one doctor who was never peer-reviewed.
Did you see how he's saying all this like it's a fact?
People had no idea about anything involving coronaviruses until they got a little snippet of information that fueled some expertise on Facebook. So within that, yes,
on Facebook, it's not true.
Important. I think there
these same people used to say, "Oh, that's from the internet, so it's not true." Oh, that's YouTube, it's not true.
Individuals that we have put into the podium of speaking about vaccines and which ones should be considered in certain ways. But the reality of it is that those hiccups fuel the internet and the disinformation that fuels the skeptics on social media, and it is quite disheartening to see.
So, Jesse Miller, I mean, yes, you're a social media
he's got that white
expert,
pride,
you were a
and it makes him feel bad that we don't.
And interested in focusing on social media. You're essentially a communications expert. Let's just be blunt about this. This has nothing to do with political perspective.
See, if it's not the same guy, that's the second professional communicator.
For various levels of government. It's not like they're difficult to find. Why do we have people? I don't care if they've got medical degrees.
Hear how this guy's forming his sentences.
Not everyone with a medical degree is a terrific speaker. I know lots of doctors who I would not put out there to quarterback a message like this. And we've got lots of people who are right now messaging in behalf of the government who are not the kind of people who would get an A+ in communications. I wouldn't give some of them a D. I'm not saying they're not educated. I'm not saying they don't know, quote, their stuff. But they don't know how to communicate a message.
Quote their
stuff. Fair, I mean, we're then talking about
because the informal language is somebody else's, not his.
The talking head is always going to be the more appealing as opposed to the pragmatic.
You guys couldn't be more apparent with your Aryan Brotherhood bullshit if you try.
On what they know and what they have to factor in based on variables. So within that, do you want a salesperson or do you want a medical professional? I think the reality of within this is that when you look at efficacy of one vaccine versus the other, or the value of mRNA vaccines versus traditional vaccines that are attenuated, I mean, you don't necessarily have to be a communications expert, but getting medical professionals who do have public health policy backgrounds, who do have communication backgrounds, those individuals do.
So up until last year, no vaccine ever was tested for efficacy. No, they weren't. Doctors do not study vaccines or drugs in school. No, they don't. Doctors regulate themselves. If you drop a vial of a vaccine on the floor and it breaks, you're required to call the hazardous materials unit of the fire department. Oh, yeah, that's how safe it is. That's why there's only 5 or 6 in each bottle. You can have 300 pounds of propane connected to one heater, but you're not allowed to have more than 5 doses or 6 or whatever in a bottle. Is that not why? Why then?
As expected, his attorney Eric Nelson alleges prosecutorial and jury misconduct and said,
of course he does. He lost the case, therefore justice didn't go the white man's way, so it was wrong. Because it's our system and our streets. Our streets, whose streets, our streets. Remember that?
Listen up clearly and carefully, because
all you pussies, we're police, so these are our streets. What city are you from? A different one. You grew up in the street? No. Our streets. O-S. Yeah, Os. You're right. You got that part right, stupid. Your streets. Where are you now? Hiding in the police station, refusing to do any work.
are doing a good job, but again, what does the rotation look like? What does it look like for the individuals in government to say, okay, let's get some other voices out there to somewhat harmonize this? And that's important, because when we see a slip up, especially an exhaustion slip up, whether it be about a recommendation about a vaccine or the delivery times or what the science allows between doses, you know, that right there fuels the idea that these people are not prepared for their job. And the reality of it is that I think if I've heard other doctors critiquing these individuals and coming forward and saying, here are the issues and here's the concerns, then those doctors will be able to professionally challenge that. And we have seen that. In British Columbia, we saw very, very good communicating doctors come forward and say, this doesn't help us. This doesn't help us when you slip up this way. So let's make sure before we just randomly say things, we do get a bit more of a harmonized approach to get the general public to understand why one vaccine might not have the same efficacy as any other, and how it can be adapted to make sure that individuals on social media can't weaponize your statement.
Well, two people screwed.
So last week, oh my God, the concern's not the efficacy at all. Last week they were talking about, all last week was about prolonging the interval between the first and second dose. No one's mentioning that we have enough booster shots to do everybody twice and enough shots to do everybody 6 times. Not 6 half doses, 6 full vaccinations plus 2 booster shots. That's how much we got on order. So this week they're talking about how people are arguing over which one's more effective. No, they're not. Nasty thing that they released on Friday was about blood clots. It wasn't about efficacy. You want to hear this guy talk for 20 fucking minutes about how all the vaccines work? That's not the problem. Analyzing who's a good public speaker or not to tell us which vaccine is more effective or not, that's not the current public affair. That's not the issue at hand. I cannot take any. I can't take anything intravenous, really. I'll bleed to death. I'll bleed to death internally and externally at the same time. I'll go into full rigor mortis, and there's a good chance you'll trigger my trigeminal neuralgia. And you think I need to get it to make you safe? You can't get it from me if you're vaccinated. You can't get it from me if you're vaccinated, can you?
That's hate for privately you break and admire. Your rubber grip tight. Yes, nigga. Bird take it. Pretty slim. Be out here. Don't get close, nigga. We the crickets got the shooters behind me. OGs the white, the 70s and 90s. So don't sleep, no, nigga. We are one. No matter who it is, bound to get the job done. We the crickets got the shooters behind me. OGs the white, the 70s and 90s. So don't sleep.
I remember the last one, the one with the Pearson or whatever. It's easier to convince the judge that what you did was not murder than it is to convince 1 out of 12 jurors that what you did was not murder. She said that. She popped right out with, well, if it were me, I would do this and that. My defense would be doing this and that. Wow. You fantasized about if it were you that had murdered a black man in front of everybody. What would you fantasize? And deeply too, because it came out like
on the same stage, with the same click, never gonna change, no one nigga only control. And the pool, but only if it's fucking up. Play some aim and niggas above the button. I'm hard in the paint, no patch of fucking up. Repack and flip that to get our shit up. Only other option is to stick up. Never a 9 to 5, cause I ain't got no day job. From the slums, little homie, when we play hard, you don't wanna see the 30-30 when it sprays on. 20 people walk around 3/8 for the beef. The 40 to lick them down, the max for the DC. Heard niggas saying about they wanna make tracks with us. Before that, didn't even crack to us. Going hard in the booth, it's a takeover. Hard in the ground into your face, that's a makeover. 2 and 5 for a Q. The rest profit, hustlers, when I say won't sleep till I knock it. And don't push me, cause I ain't in the talking. 12-year-old who's why I'm scared if you got it. Y'all got it. Is it me you comparing to? I ain't finished my fair share yet, but I aired them just started. And I ain't talking about no jump shot, brush them off, don't talk. You know the code hurt my chest. Didn't think I was capable. 4-5 pipe on my traceable. Didn't think I was capable. 4-5 pipe on my it isn't traceable.
You niggas gon' ride something like a flat tire. Aim the fire at your back, it was a backfire. Cause I got the same size as a blow dryer. Never true in your raps, you some damn liars. Great job, make them spit through the wires. And you don't supply shit, you a buyer. I'm the king again, rap, call me sire. That's it, for privately you rate and admire. Your rubber grip tight, no pliers. I gotta take you out, call it quits or retire. The fourth room down, fifth lift them up. Bounce don't leave shouts, so I'm switching up. Something like a bus driver still picking up. You got your hands in your pocket, nigga, stick them up. On the projects, money's no objects. So we finger fuck max and we contact.
Slide in, slide out, duck when we ride out. Down, yo, I got rounds at you dumb clowns. Fucking standing up till I tell them sit down. Stomach on the ground, hands behind your back and your down. When I'm digging in your pants, give me that in your grip. All for the rest. He said, tap the weed, leave the cash. What? I'ma do him dirty, mad max. Do it, niggas get back. Bitches get snapped and get smacked face down when I'm breaking her back. Yo, we got metal like a rap, made a name in rap. I ain't setting it for trap, yes. Yo, I'ma need me a back for that C-O-L-T. Carved in my rap, steel unstolen. Stereo scratch, sleep on my actions. Stop the madness, I'm reeling up, get your gun. Magic, they can't go sleep like I don't got a night joke. Send your aim class, didn't see wrong. Nah, run up on them close. I ain't doing wrong, but I'm clear blood strong till it jumps on my palm. Till it highly dangerous and no to me arms drop dangerous. Sicker than stars, I ain't saying miss, but I'm a all star. All snap, crack, pop like Kellogg. All snap, run, duck, just hide when I let off. Run, man in the mask, man in the act, man with the strap to your man's vision black. With the phone dog and hot snap, OGs for YG, scroll clap, we clap. Do you come and try me? 70s and 90s, been moving grimy. Blood rush till it's hooked up to the ivy. 4-5 will stretch you, and they think it's drunk. Until they end up on a stretcher, better get a coffin. Yo, Critians, so we ain't in a no long talking. Money overflow, back on my bullshit. These punks that I grew with, acting like they're too sick, too. No cash making me ever switch sides. Or babble to the jakes, almost get my cuss fried. My mind's fried. See, I don't give a fuck. Skank it with a YG, guarantee we hit them up. Take a nigga slut, man, you know me. Never look back since my first stack in 03. Pack.
This is the least amount of problem we've encountered recording a song so far.
Coming up the wood, I'm a tough motherfucker. Slumming with the sword, I'm a rough motherfucker. They don't wanna catch me at my best, but at my worst. And that's exactly why I gotta put them in the dirt. You should see us go to work. Watch me hit them where it hurts. Watch me fucking hit them first. Watch me put them in a hearse. Drinking blood and quench my thirst. Catch a charge with every verse. This who cheated kinda cursed. FTP across my shirt. Yeah, fuck the population. Fuck your life and occupation. I'ma watch you run away. It look like immigration.
Same grubby sweater since high school. Drugs out the vial, on file, homo screens and vials. Survival of the fittest, I'm a walking pandemic. Try to take on me and do the jogging man with it. What's a champion scene without some sadness up in it? I know the world is ours, I'm just having a minute. Another dead man walking with a casket in it. It's either a bucket or a habit I'm kicking. Conscience roll caller, is it casting auditions? If you notice I ain't present, it's cause the past isn't finished.
Coming for the throat of anyone that is my enemy. Listen, little bitch, this is not what I pretend to be. Send an army, send your troops, send them in with camo suits. Come and catch me, make me pay. Ward boy till my dying day. Ward boy till my dying day. Ward boy being sealed away. Ward boy after I decay. I'm a fucking misfit with this fucking recipe. Hit you with my face, bitch. Bring it red like Christmas. death is on my wish list.
The Popular Party has been governing in the last 20 years.
Listen to their loss. No cap, no strings attached, fucking weird flaws. Down
26 years. That's like 6 or 7 FIFAs, and you didn't do nothing to fix your politics.
You're my nemesis. Yeah, I said that with emphasis. Ain't no common ground or no common sense. Fuck your comments, that's the consequence when you on the fence. Killing will, all my head is fair. I can't call them off. I can't call it, dog. Shit, I'm probably wrong. Stay lifted and twisted like a fucking polygon. If you feeling froggy, get knocked back to a polywall.
Straight to see the black dove. So don't push no more when it comes to pushing.
It's 3, 2, 1 o'clock.
I'll put you through the floor. Someone come and catch some smoke. I swear you'll be the one to choke. When I'm fucking an angry bitch, I'ma wipe out all your hope. I'ma smoke your fucking dope. Cut you up like cantaloupe. Send you to the North Pole inside of an envelope. Bloody up my swords again. Demons always play pretend. Cut them up with just a pen. I'm something you can't comprehend. Against me you cannot defend. Pain and fear you can't prevent. I'll make sure you feel suspense. Put you under the cement. Put you in the ground. We're talking down to a nihilist. Taking all these chemicals. I feel like I'm a scientist. Breaking my appliances. Anger with the sciences. That is what my style is. And evil is my stylist.
How you smoking Percy's and still Jackson the lighter thief? If you let the green shit go full circle like a reef. Ain't it scary? Mixing Katy Perry, St. Jerry, aviary, mellow. Watch me blow dead and buried. Revolutionary, a bit shaking theory. The pen should make the paper move, both are stationary. Can't sleep in my bed since he was up there. Got me fucked up.
But what's the other potential explanation?
Yes,
it is genuinely weird to see someone hosting a show on a supposed news network and ending every sentence with a question mark, especially when answers to most of those questions are out there for anyone who cares to know. So, for instance, that last complaint that the CDC still recommends wearing masks indoors when around vulnerable, unvaccinated people does not mean the vaccine doesn't work. Clinical trials found that the vaccines are spectacularly successful at preventing people from getting serious disease. As for whether they protect you from spreading the virus, the trials weren't designed to assess that, but evidence so far indicates that they drastically reduce transmission.
Yeah, because you're not hacking and spitting everywhere, but you're still shedding live virus
is being cautious
out of every bodily fluid.
Spreading bull around during a global pandemic. Like
we're not allowed to swear on the radio in Canada. That's the law. Everyone knows that.
At least one of your gape-mouthed, bad-faced wonderings, Tucker, you scrunch-faced fear baboon. And the problem is, when people like Tucker raise questions without bothering to answer them, there is a lot of misinformation out there for people to then stumble on.
That's John Oliver taking apart Tucker Carlson. Jesse Miller, I need to ask you this. First of all, I'm not saying I know Tucker Carlson well, but I know him well enough. And I can tell you this. There's nothing that he put out there that he believes. Like nothing. Zero. Absolutely zero. And he didn't even write it. That stuff is written for him.
No,
here's where I want you to take
just
this,
like yours too, right?
Why do you create that kind of copy? Why do you create that kind of content? What's the business model reason?
People that hate Howard Stern listen for twice as long as people that love him.
Tucker Carlson is the highest earning television show in that time slot. They might not have advertisers who want to align with his garbage that he spews out, but they make obscene amounts of money off of profit sharing across network share. So
people don't associate the advertisers.
Then, Fox News and in line the Murdochs will continue to push it because there is an audience who is collecting it. It's pseudo-reality TV. They've acknowledged
half of his audience or more is people that can't stand him.
I love that he throws it out there and saying, "What's in this?" He's part of the heir to the Swanson frozen dinner family. They wouldn't take the same approach with what's in your fish sticks. Well, fish. There's a lot more garbage in there as well. So, what I'd like to highlight here is that we need, obviously, a better communication strategy for vaccinations. But the biggest issue within corporate cable news is that it isn't news. It's corporate cable entertainment. And that's where those who are believing what he says or the way he poses those questions, that for them is factual information. And that's where media literacy and core values of education, especially in middle to secondary school, are part of those communities that he targets.
Let me just let me just ask in terms of how you make money on this and how you monetize and how you get your name out, how you expand your brand, and I've only got a few seconds here. Isn't it true that when you put that kind of crap out, you're going to get lots of pushback, including from people like the talented John Oliver and Jesse Miller and many others? And isn't it true that when you get that kind of pushback, you create
these are called leading questions.
And as I said earlier, you make the algos go crazy. I've only got 20 seconds for an answer.
It very much does. I think that we're all part of that vicious cycle in certain ways in media. The reality also becomes, how do we make sure that good news information is reaching people to make good health choices? Get vaccinated, wear your mask, and at the end of the day, help save people's lives. It's that simple.
Jesse Miller, you're the best. You're the best of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I always say I envy your students, but we're all your students tonight, and please come back anytime. Jesse Miller of Mediated Reality. In what is Chuck talking about? Makes the algos go crazy. The algorithms. Just Google it. Algorithms. Okay. The algorithms are programmed to take that kind of crap.
Algorithms are programs.
By putting it out on social media.
This spring on Showcase.
My patriarchal ancestor, Lawrence Rutherford.
You see how we talked right up
to the creator of The Good Place and Heart.
Please keep that up, Shomo. Keep sending bad code our way and freezing up the machine randomly. That's how we know it's being hit up through Bluetooth or something. We shouldn't be able to. I think it's not activated if you buy the cheap version, but it's in there. I'm not sure. The algorithms are programs, but that's neither here nor there. You keep some pushback. So the more angry phone calls and emails they get, the better, or letters or whatever. Because they can show that to advertisers. It doesn't matter if the person loves or hates the program. It's how much response did you get that tells you how many listeners you have. It doesn't matter if they like it or hate it. You don't listen to only the things you like. You're still hearing the advertising. Charles knows all about that. He's been doing this job his whole life, his entire fucking life or some shit. He's been doing this job. Right. And he told us how old he was last week. I forgot, but he knows exactly about making people angry, gets more advertising money. That's got nothing to do with algorithms. I need smoke. I should have just rolled a big joint. You know what I just did? What I just did was waste. Yeah, every time my face. Yep, 3 times in a row. Really good, boy. Three right there, plus the other 2. Keep it up. Keep it up. Every time my face lines up, I want you to hit that button, whatever you're sending data to our machine. What I just did, I just wasted my weed. Well, I looked at it, I was like, I could fit it all in one paper and make it kind of big, or I could make 2 skinny ones. And then I smoked it, and I listened to Charles, and I blew my fucking buzz. I'm trying to figure out which news I want to hear. I don't want to stand up, so fuck it.
From their help desk support.
Listen right here Sunday mornings at 11 as Wise Tech Group presents the IT Support Show. Visit the website itsupportshow.com
or email anytime help@itsupportshow.com.
I don't know if they're any good or not, but they're doing a talk radio about IT. So that's we need that. I think people need to be able to hear that other people asking questions again so they can learn their shit. Because obviously we have a huge problem with people abusing network access. I gotta stand up anyway. No, I don't. I'm gonna cheat.
Is proven to last for up to 90 days. To have your location serviced, visit nanonationcanada.com.
Dads, we all got one.
Close the fridge door, will ya? You're letting all the cold air out.
Always trying to save a buck or 2 around the house.
Are you almost done in there? You've been running the water for 20 minutes.
At LG Home Comfort, they're dads too, and moms, so they understand saving money on energy. That's why if you're an Ontario homeowner, your first and last call should be to LG Home Comfort for your heating, cooling, and water needs. So get a tankless water heater and save on that 20-minute shower, or flip on that air conditioner. Visit lghomecomfort.ca to learn more.
Don't fuck up the wrong tree.
They're not undoing what I'm doing, like I click pause and they click play. There's bad code. In this case, the mouse, you cannot click it once. Okay. So I have to hold it long enough that it's 3 or 5 or 7 times that it's reading or some shit. It's dumb. Yeah, LG. What was it? 2 weeks ago, they said they're getting out of the cell phone business. Yeah, because and they're going to get into all the house, smart home, climate control, all that shit. Because all the same stuff that's in the cell phones, you can put in that stuff. Only it doesn't have to be as small. The Wi-Fi antenna in your water heater can be 2 fucking feet long, and it doesn't matter. But you'll be able to access it from anywhere in the house, type of shit. Is what I'm thinking of. Or on your central air conditioner outside or whatever. But your cell phone has to have like everything miniaturized. I remember saying that, and then the next fucking thing they did was start running that commercial. It's good to get little bits of
information. It would make sense for us to align with partners around the world on some sort of proof of vaccination or vaccine certification. Meanwhile, Trudeau is backing the long-standing advice from Health Canada that says people should get the first vaccine they're offered. This after the National Advisory Committee on Immunization touched off a flurry of concern when it stated that Canadians who aren't at high risk of COVID-19 may want to wait to choose until they get the Pfizer or Moderna shots, as those don't carry the risk of a rare blood clotting syndrome. Proposed legislation to support Canada reaching net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 has cleared its first legislative hurdle, despite conservative opposition.
We already absorbed 4 times as much carbon dioxide as we emit. We already absorb. I got the fucking screen. Somebody's done the math. It's like 4 times as much carbon dioxide as we emit, which is as a landmass. But remember, 70% of the oxygen you breathe comes from algae in the ocean, not trees.
The list of the injured who were taken to several hospitals in the area. Among the youngest on the list are 2 15-year-old girls. Many of those rushed to the hospital have not yet been identified, and it's unclear what caused the collapse. Mexico City's mayor said an independent company will be hired to investigate what caused the collapse. The questions are already mounting, including whether the 2017 earthquake played a role and if the bridge construction was adequate. The country's president says whatever is uncovered in the investigation will not be hidden. Marcus Moore, ABC News, Mexico City.
From the Global News Desk, I'm Toby Kerr.
So, if you can see visible cracks in the concrete, that is a huge warning sign. If you can see visible cracks in the concrete, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not strong enough. If the construction work, if the concrete was proper when it was poured and everything was done correctly, the earthquake should not have damaged it. But you can check it after the earthquake. There's different equipment. There's like ground penetrating radar, all that type of X-rays. Anything that can see through material. X-rays is not the right one. And you can determine if it will or will not still holds the same weights and what would happen in another earthquake of the same strength and so on and so forth. It's all different math. It's all science. It's all already written down somewhere. Somebody already figured it out. There's no, oh, did this happen or that happen? Which leaves only corruption. For example, too much sand in the concrete. Everything Osama bin Laden's construction company builds, too much sand in the concrete, and the ship falls down. You don't hear about it now because all the shit his company built fell down.
On the air before, one of the reasons I like her, okay, as a communicator, is she speaks in language that I find to be understandable and accessible. She doesn't hide behind a bunch of politically correct verbiage. Deb Schultz, Minister Schultz, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much for having me back. It's a pleasure.
Let me just ask you a basic question about COVID-19. Seniors,
I know she's going to have nothing useful to say because her connection's perfectly clear.
In long-term care and elsewhere. I just want you to address the families of seniors, families who've lost loved ones in the last 14 months or so.
Put on your.
It has been an incredibly difficult year.
This is what they spend all their time focusing on. How to communicate and pretend to empathize
and even more so for those that are living in long-term care and congregate settings that have been isolated from family members.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'll do it right now because that's what she's waiting for.
But it has been very, very tough on seniors and those families that have been struggling to, support support them during this pandemic. There's no doubt we've had a lot of challenges, and we've been working very hard as a government to address those issues.
Nobody mounted a legal challenge.
New Horizons for Seniors money, with infection prevention control measures in long-term care facilities. We've been putting in additional funding to the provinces and territories for healthcare. It has been a very big challenge for everyone, but you can be sure the provinces and territories, the federal government, and organizations all across Canada have been working very hard in a Team Canada approach to try to do the very best for Canadians and keeping them safe.
Remembering that our Olympic teams are fraught with sexual assault.
That's been the focus for our
Team
government.
Canada, right.
Keep Canadians safe and get them through the pandemic, get through to the other side so that we can get back to a strong economy and move forward in a good way.
This is the third person today.
Trippz, I'm not going to give you any breaking news here. I'm sure that ever since you've been the seniors minister, maybe before, you've heard.
This is the third person today telling us it's about communications, and she just gave us her spiel that she's been practicing for. Hey, give us the spiel. Okay, I'll do that right now. This is how I pretend to emphasize with all the people that have been killed, and it's so horrible that we did that, and we acknowledge that we did that, and it's bad, and that's not bad for you to judge, but we are going to be the judges because we are the white supremacists of the world. Like staring at your mouth the whole time. The whole time. But she called it Team Canada. Right, what do you think of when you think of Olympic team kids, the Olympic teams, international teams, Pan America, all that shit? Sexual assault, sexual abuse of children. Right, and what I was going to say, which is separate in my mind, but connects back to it again, you're treating the seniors like because you can physically force them to do something that you're allowed to, and you're not. That if you do it for their own good, that it's okay. No, it's not. You're doing the same thing you do to children. Raping a child is considered a non-violent offense in Canada.
And infection prevention controls in place, and facilities a lot of our facilities are outdated, and they were still in the 4 to a room, which is very hard to isolate when people are not well. So there's a tremendous
false narrative. They were purposely mixing the people up, so there was a sick person and 3 not sick people in every fucking room. They were moving people around, so the sick people were spread out, mixed up as much as possible with everybody else.
And territories to help with infection and prevention control, enhance the healthcare system. We've put $3 billion on the table to be able to help with essential worker pay, and we're also working on a program to provide up to 4,000 more personal support worker interns that will then be placed into the system to be able to help with the shortage in long-term care and home care that we saw during the pandemic. And we're also putting money into infrastructure improvements. I just recently did an announcement. I know the Minister of Infrastructure is doing announcements with the provinces across the country to enhance the air filtration, air conditioning, and sprinkler systems within long-term care.
Oh, sprinklers.
We just did almost $100 million in Ontario to upgrade facilities across Ontario.
Filtration's not the issue.
We see the challenges in these facilities, and we're
the systems are not running. So I see this everywhere. Like 99% of humans, they don't want a fan running unless it's like insanely hot. They everybody does the same thing. They wait until noon to turn the air conditioner on, complain that the thing doesn't work, and that by the end of the day it's too cold and it sucks up so much hydro. Yeah, because you're doing that by using the equipment wrong. There's a little switch, fan auto, fan on, switch to on, stupid. That's all you have to do. You don't need an upgraded air conditioner. You just need the fan in the HVAC unit running. That's all you need. It will pressurize the building and push everything out. That's what it's designed to do. You don't need to filter because the air is coming from up on the roof. You're not trying to filter out the virus from the fresh air coming in from outside, stupid. And these buildings are not supposed to be set up with recirculating systems. No, they're not. No, they're not.
You know, we're putting money forward. We're putting $3 billion additional dollars to support the provinces and territories to ensure that we have standards in long-term care and that they are applied and that permanent changes are made.
They have standards.
But we're also investing $90 million for a new Age Well at Home initiative. So we know people would rather stay at home. They don't want to go into long-term care.
$3,000.
So how can we help seniors to stay in their homes longer? Well, we
$3,000 to ensure their standards in the long-term care homes. $90 to help somebody stay and age in their house. So they're going to push and push for everybody to age at home, because they know this was going to happen anyway. Everybody's going to say, fuck it, I'll just die at home rather than that. I can't blame them. And they're going to not fund that at all. But they've already set all the paramedic services to doing at-home healthcare for seniors rather than drag them to the hospital and bring them back. It's kind of like pharmacists writing prescriptions and registered nurses, because registered nurses and pharmacists study drugs. Doctors don't. The guy that prescribes the drug to you is not required to know anything about it. He's just required to do what some other doctor would do. It's the same as CSA. Everything in Canada, everything electrical that plugs in the walls is CSA. People will insist it's some government agency. Nope. Canadian Safety Association. So Canadian, that's nothing. Association, that's a business. That's a club for businesses, and they call themselves safety. They all sign off on each other's work. That's all it is. So some company that might have started yesterday is signing off on my work, and I'm supposed to sign off on theirs. Wait a second.
They're calling it
television again. Right back to don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. The ventilation systems in these types of buildings. One of these places is 900 beds. Okay, that's like this fucking building, 22 fucking floors. It's got to be roughly equivalent in square footage. The air handler systems don't recirculate. They come from outside. There's nothing to filter out. There's nothing to filter out in terms of viral material. Droplets and virus and everything, particulates and everything else tend to settle downwards, but it's 100 feet, not 6 feet. 2 meters is 6'8", which rounds to 7 feet. It's not 6 feet. And the droplets don't travel 2 meters. They travel 30 meters, which is 100 feet. You ever see the sun at a certain angle when it's setting, and you can see the dust and particles in the air? You can see every little droplet come out of somebody's mouth. They'll shoot 20 fucking feet. And they're not even doing it on purpose.
To do is pick and grill on the menu.
But the thing is, this virus don't die just because it dries out. It's not B19. B19 dies when the fucking bodily fluid dries out. So all my bodily fluids have B19 in them, but as soon as they dry, you can't get nothing from it. It's similar, but not the same to how HIV is basically degraded by oxygen, supposedly within 15 minutes. But hepatitis C, you can pour chlorine bleach on hepatitis C, and it won't die. So these people claim, oh, our new cleaning product kills all viruses, including COVID. Yeah, not hepatitis. That's why there's autoclaves. And they incinerate or microwave all the waste that comes from hospitals. Hey, who's dealing with all that waste? Where's all this medical waste going? You got people tripling up on PPE, but using the same shit all day. Yeah, that makes all the people they deal with sick. But they don't believe it will make them sick. These are the people that keep touching the mask. They keep touching here. You can see that this is what they're touching with the mask on. And by the way, if your mask is this big, it's not possible to filter what you're breathing because it's all blowing out the sides. It's always going to. Those stupid non-medical masks, you know why it says non-medical mask? It doesn't do anything. It does nothing. It's a sheet of plastic wrap. It says 65% non-woven material. And it's polyester, which is plastic sheeting. It's not fucking, it's not a textile.
Bedtime stories for grown-ups. Trouble sleeping?
How long was I babbling and we're on another commercial break? Or is it the same
algorithm? It's been trained on a data set of a lot of buildings, and of course, most buildings are not painted bright red, green, and blue, and so it colors the palace the color that it expects, which is just a plain sort of stone. It has no colors on it whatsoever.
Is it beige just because the algorithm doesn't have a very wide color palette?
The algorithm works by picking sort of an average of everything it sees. It sees red, it sees blue, it sees green, and it
like
picks
MPEG video
a color that's right in the middle. So you end up with these colors that look like if you mix all the paints in your paint box together, it doesn't know to pick one bright color, it just sort of picks something that's right in the middle.
Why does it matter if the algorithms are getting this colorization wrong?
A lot of people have compared this colorization problem
algorithm
with
does what it does, so it's wrong.
Greek and Roman architecture that we think of as being white, which was actually brightly painted at the time. It's simply lost its paint And so we associate it with being white, even though that's a completely wrong image of what history actually looked like.
That's Gwen Katz. Now, meanwhile, one place that's also working on artificial colorization of historic material is the BBC.
They painted marble and all that shit.
Of pre-color TV and film. BBC Research and Development is running experiments in using machine learning.
Oh yeah, I bet you are. And every time I click on that link...
Go left onto King Street. Wait, sorry, that's a stop sign. Recalculating.
You wouldn't trust AI for twins, so why would you trust self?
It's 5 times on and on. You hear that? So more trying to paint the AI as being wrong. Yeah, keep it up. More of trying to paint the AI as being wrong. Okay, you write the program, you run it. Chomo's getting mad. you write the program, you run it. Whatever it spits out is, yeah, keep showing me with my eyes clamped shut. That's good. Whatever the output is the output. Yeah, keep it up, Chomo. Chomo's getting so mad. Oh, he's been at this for 5 fucking minutes. Jesus Christ, man. He's been at that for 5 fucking minutes. Every time I speak facts, he gets, yeah, keep showing me my eyes frozen shut. He's been at that for 5 fucking minutes. So anytime I say anything that's true, he gets fucking angry. Oh, because it doesn't go along with his, his delusion's not the word, narrative or whatever. His own version of the world where he's at the center and I'm his property and whatever. Where everything I say is a lie, so it's incomputable. So he's getting very angry. It's very similar to this thing I'm talking about with the AI. Now I'm talking about Chomo again. So the AI, the algorithm doesn't. There is no. Give it up. That there is no getting it wrong. Whatever input you gave it, whatever input you gave the AI, what you get out is the answer. It doesn't matter if you think it's right or not. Oh, it's wrong. Why is the AI getting it wrong? And I know they said algorithm, but these are AI algorithms. And then you just heard, I know, Chomo, you hate hearing me talk, so you're going to make it take 20 fucking minutes instead of 2. Okay. So you just heard the BBC say, yeah, we've been experimenting with, yeah, including keeping track of everybody that tunes into the fucking internet radio station. So my mouth opened and I reached for the mouse at the same time. You've done the exact, I've triggered you 250,000 times in a row. No, that's good. That's good. I've triggered you 250,000 times in a row. 250,000 times in a row. 2,500 videos times, about 100 times per video. You've responded like a puppet on a string. Your child molestation is pathological, bro. Your mental illness is just a defense strategy for court. You're not schizophrenic. You're not delusional. You're a child rapist. What, do you want me to go back to talking about the BBC? Then fuck off and stop jamming my shit up, stupid. So you heard the radio cut in and out 5 times as I switched the station. Yeah, that's the type of shit I'm talking about. That's the type of shit I'm talking about.
Facility is structured the same or has the same, you can't make it so prescriptive that it denies a lot of facilities from being able to operate. But it does mean that you've got to identify how those facilities could operate in a safe environment for effective prevention of infection prevention. And that's really what you need the experts to come together and tell us what this should look like. And then government should take that advice, and we'll be using that to inform our discussions that we're going to have with the provinces and territories on the implementation of long-term care standards. And I can tell you, I'm already having those conversations. I was talking with some of my colleagues, my counterparts in the different provinces and territories, and getting a sense of where they're at. And most of them are telling me they are very concerned about what happened. Obviously, they want to see improved circumstances for their seniors, and their standards is a way to have that conversation. Like how can you do that if you don't know what should be in place? And so that's where long-term care standards make sense, and it's making sense to my colleagues across the country. So we're putting serious money on the table
is so pathological.
To ensure
He
that
still
those get
insists,
implemented.
I could not see the TV from right here. I'm lying. So he's going to test it. And me saying I see this happening isn't good enough for him, because he uses this software all day long and knows it doesn't work every time. You know how he knows that? Because I told him that, but he still doesn't believe. Because niggers are liars.
Listening to this broadcast right now, get some information from you, some kind of commitment that eventually will happen.
So your friend had her finger fucking broken, didn't take the hint. You had your leg broken, didn't take the hint. She made a crack about my boots, was the last thing she ever said to me. She's dead. You made a crack about my boots? Hey, Charles, what's up?
It's appropriate to start drawing the line in the sand at this point in time. I think we need to work with the provinces and territories, which we are, to determine where they're at. Not all of them are in the same place. Not all of them face the same challenges that that we saw in Ontario and in Quebec, and in some circumstances in BC. There was good outcomes in many facilities across the country. Those lessons need to be taken together. They need to be worked. We need to work with the provinces and territories. And I'm not going to get to the end of the process at the beginning, because I don't think that you're not coming at the process with the right frame if you're going to start dictating early on. But it is very clear from the conversations that I've had with stakeholders, with seniors, and with my counterparts across the provinces, that standards are an important element of understanding how we're going to make the changes that need to be made to keep seniors safe in these facilities and in their homes as well. And this is why we're, other programs we're bringing forward to make sure that we're not just focusing all of our energies on long-term care. We're going to be helping seniors stay in their own homes longer with new programs and with some additional support, meeting our commitment and promise to increase OAS by 10% for those 75 and older. So we're going to help seniors' financial security as they age.
I hope you understand. I'm not playing.
75 and older. Okay. So long-term care homes are precisely that. They're not nursing homes, old age homes, or retirement homes. They're long-term care homes. I can go there. How does giving 10% to somebody who's 75 help me, who's never going to live long enough to collect it? What's the one thing got to do with the other? Can you turn the ventilation systems on, please? None of them are turned on. Go there right now. This happens every spring and fall. In the most humid, disgusting weather where mold grows like crazy, the fans, the ventilation the HVACs in every building everywhere are turned off, except for the skyscrapers downtown, because they use the one flow through once air conditioning idea, same as this building here, actually, this condo building, which is more to stabilize the temperature than to cool it off, and then it dries it out. And that stops mold from growing. That's right. They want to turn all that off and use the cheapest materials possible. Go look in your bathroom. Is it drywall? Why? Mold grows on that. Why do you build? Oh, it's the X type. It doesn't matter. It's still gypsum bullshit that soaks in water and provides the perfect media for mold to grow. Everywhere you go in this city right now, it stinks of mold, and a lot of the banks smell like dead bodies, because there are bodies in the basement. The tellers refuse to believe other people can smell it because they tell themselves they can't smell it. Anybody who can work around the smell of dead bodies just deny that it's there. There's a mental illness. I can work in the smell, but I know it's there.
And your generosity with time, and I hope we'll talk to you again down the road.
I look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Jones and Danforth.
Ned Schultz.
The National Bank.
Minister of
Pape and Danforth. Go in there right now. It fucking reeks. And they refuse to run the air conditioning.
Got a couple of minutes here.
Go in there in the summertime. You can smell rotted bodies. You wonder why money smells like death.
I'm not giving myself a 20-second or 30-second.
The banks provide mortgage and construction financing, so they always get whatever piece of real estate they want.
By the way, just
something
built.
If it's built, guess what's going to happen?
In just a few minutes, right after the news break, and then I'll open up the lines and text, and maybe
lowest common denominator.
We can have
get the cheapest.
I'm big into this balance thing.
That's why they're all in banks. If it was in a residential or commercial building, everybody would smell it.
They have to cover, but I want to have some
bank tellers,
fun.
Bank managers that are greedy. They don't want to admit they smell it.
Before we do that, though, something serious. Premier Jason Kenney says he's making it clear to his caucus,
Scott,
that extremists are
Jason
not
Kenney. You all got two first names.
Conservative Party's base. Okay. And he has received death threats. This is what he's saying tonight. Good. He has received death threats from members of that group.
Which one?
Meaning extremists. In a Facebook live stream, shortly after introducing new public health restrictions tonight, they involve businesses with outbreaks shutting down for weeks, schools shutting down.
You thought about all this before you started calling the Indians eco-terrorists.
On what is going on, because Alberta is the hotspot in North America. So Kenney said, after he made these statements about new restrictions, Kenney said that he received 2 messages in short succession, one of which threatened his 83-year-old mother, who lives alone. He said the messages read, and he's quoting from the messages, "You will be executed for your crimes against humanity. You will be executed for your crimes against humanity.
That's not a...
And we know where your mother lives." Kenney said he told his caucus that people sending those types of messages or purporting insane, he used the word, insane conspiracy theories are not his party's base. These people, we don't want people making death threats. We don't want people threatening to lock up Dr. Hinshaw. We don't want people organizing rallies with tiki torches based on the neo-Nazi rally in Virginia. Those are not our supporters. These are Kenney's words. Those are not Alberta conservatives. Those are not mainstream Alberta.
That's your whole party,
Kenney said.
You fucking idiot.
I want to talk about some of this, and then I want to switch to something which will allow all of us at the kitchen table to have some fun.
Yeah, but you're running some weird fucking
This is Charles Answer tonight.
Does your business...
Matt Lally, and Glenn Boddington, so bridging inequalities there and encouraging more girls into STEM subjects and so on. We know it matters, but how do we achieve it?
No, we've really got to get there, haven't we? And this is wonderful work, absolutely amazing.
Well, Mr. White Man, stop shitting on...
We've been very hard.
Stop shitting on women, girls, or any children, really. Mr. White Man, you already know what you're doing. You're told every fucking day not to do it. How do we stop this? They're perpetuating a false narrative. They want you hearing white men's voices in your ears going, "Oh, I don't know. I need training. I have mental illness." No, that's not the problem. You're sociopathic. You have sociopathic tendencies, psychopathic tendencies. It's apparent when you have to ask, well, what do we do? It's already been stated what's being done. You're doing things to attack people for no reason. And it needs to stop. How do we make this? It needs to be made to stop in order that more girls can get into STEM subjects in school and careers and so forth. So how do we make it so more girls end up in... We just told you, stop doing what you're doing. You see how they make it go on? It's called circular reasoning.
Respect these needed.
Actually, it's not circular reasoning. It's like a circular narrative, I guess you might say.
A message from and paid for by QB966.
Hello, I am water.
And I am earth, and we are just made for each other.
I come down as rain and hit on earth.
Together we make mud, sweet, beautiful mud.
Some find us challenging.
While all those Subarus with symmetrical full-time all-wheel drive revel in our creation.
Mud, our special gift to the world. Enjoy Subaru's all-weather drive event with great rates on 2021 Subaru Foresters. Go online to build and price yours and adventure on in all weather.
The magic of springtime is upon us.
Spring cleaning is one of the great joys of life.
Spring cleaning is when homes get a new twinkle in their eye.
A new
Left, Right, and Center is your weekly antidote. Thoughtful, provocative, debate.
It says BBC World Service.
Smarter. For recent episodes, go to
Just point.
When that shiny truck from 1-800-GOT-JUNK arrives at your house,
It's a sign of a new beginning.
a clean start.
A breath of fresh air.
When your home feels clean and happy,
The people inside feel clean and happy too.
we make junk disappear.
All you have to do
Riding his bike, struck by a Jeep and killed. The child was trying to cross a busy road.
13 staff at a quarantine.
Notice how it's the car that did it.
Testing positive for COVID-19.
The one car started shooting at the other car. Really? Is this a cartoon, officer?
Activities and hugs. The lawyer for the
Prime Minister Justin
family
Trudeau.
wants the SIU investigation into his death reopened. He claims criminal
Short of
negligence
stating what the
causing
government
death
has
was committed
previously
when
said,
some were
that the
shot
best
by
vaccine for you is the first one you're offered. Global's Brianna Carnegie reports it's in response to the recommendation put forward by NASA yesterday that Pfizer and Moderna's COVID-19 vaccines are preferred over AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson.
Trudeau says every available vaccine in our country has been approved by Health Canada as being both safe and effective.
Bottom line is we need to, all of us, get vaccinated as quickly as possible so we can get back to normal.
Both the Prime Minister and Canada's top public health
It's not
doctor
going
were
back
asked
to
if
normal.
NASA's recommendation would create hesitancy among Canadians for
Do I have to home invade you a third time, you dumb cocksucker? It's not going back the way it was. You saw the Premier do what I told too. You two are supposed to be adversarial. Same thing with the mayor. What's going on here? Get the RCMP off our land. It's that simple.
Brianna Carnegie, Global News.
Alberta will soon move all students to online learning and close restaurant patios, hair salons, and tattoo parlors to combat an alarming surge in COVID-19 cases. Premier Jason Kenney says the capacity of retail shops will also drop to 10%.
Governments must not impair people's rights or their livelihoods unless it is absolutely necessary to save lives and, in this case, to prevent disaster from unfolding in our hospitals. Unfortunately, that is the situation that we are facing today.
Outdoor gatherings will be limited to 5 people instead of 10. Places of worship will be limited to 15 people instead of 15% capacity, and attendance at funerals cut in half to 10 people. Ontario says its closure of outdoor recreational facilities will remain in place until COVID-19 cases decline significantly. Global's Ted Michaels reports.
Health Minister Christine Elliott said the province currently has no timeline for the reopening of facilities like tennis courts and golf courses. She said residents need to limit their mobility as much as possible to reduce transmission of the virus. Elliott said the number of COVID-19 hospitalizations and patients in ICUs would have to go down, and a backlog of surgeries would have to be worked through before the ban on outdoor sports and other restrictions can be lifted. Mike Kelly, the executive director of the Golf Association of Ontario, said his organization has had productive conversations with the province, but believes courses are safe and should be allowed to open. Ted Michaels, Global News Radio.
In proposed legislation to support Canada reaching net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 has passed 8 votes in the House of Commons.
If passed as is, the Liberal government's legislation would require that starting in 2030, Ottawa set rolling 5-year targets to cut greenhouse gas pollution ending in 2050. That's when Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has pledged Canada will reach net zero emissions, meaning all carbon-related pollution will be offset through green initiatives or stored through technologies instead of emitted into the air.
Absorbed 4 times as much carbon dioxide as
their own motion to quash it, which wasn't supported by the other parties. Former Green leader Elizabeth May also voted against the bill after saying in the past the legislation is too weak. Terry Pedro, the Canadian
You know what you
Press,
could do?
Ottawa.
Stop subsidizing
In sports,
the
one matchup in
exports
the
of
NHL's
oil
North
and
Division.
gas.
At last check, the Vancouver Canucks were leading the Edmonton
How many
Oilers
billions you spent
1-0.
on that last
Well,
year?
that has certainly flipped. The Oilers now up 3-1 early on in the third period. All 3 goals coming in that second frame, 2 from Leon Draisaitl. Elsewhere, the Toronto Raptors are trailing the LA Clippers 86-84 early in the fourth quarter. And on the diamond,
You hear that use though? Elsewhere? No, it's the same subject. So changing gears. No, you didn't. It's the same fucking subject.
Sure. Real talk, common sense, Canadian. This is Charles Adler tonight.
Yes, this
Here
old
is
white man
Charles Adler.
tells me what Canadian is.
Good evening, Canadians. I'm Charles Adler. It's a great night for Canadian common sense. I want to have some fun in this hour.
White supremacy is common sense.
But there's no way I can go to the fun without saying a couple of
what
things.
Defense would you have presented if it was you charged with George Floyd's death?
Everyone knows.
Because Miss Pearson came out and told us
that for many years, I'm talking decades, I was a Jason Kenney admirer. Admired him more than just about any politician.
Well,
on the air, I heard myself saying several times that he's prime minister material. I even thought that Stephen Harper had worn out his welcome during the Duffy scandal.
So Trudeau does brownface and blackface. But Kenny is the fucking racist. Don't forget that.
A leadership contest. I didn't have any doubt that Jason Kenney would win. And I thought that would be better for the party. That does not mean I thought that Jason Kenney would end up winning, because I thought the Conservatives were at the end of the trail and they were going to likely lose to Thomas Mulcair, who, while being an NDPer, was basically a liberal. I know him. He was a provincial liberal. He's not a rabid socialist. And Thomas Mulcair acquitted himself really well in the prosecution of Stephen Harper. So I felt it was going in that direction. The only other caveat I'll put on that is I thought maybe, if the Liberal Party finds a way to put the boots of Thomas Mulcair in Quebec, even though Mulcair is a Quebecer, but he's not Jack Layton. I thought if the Liberal Party found a way of decimating that huge NDP caucus in Quebec, that there was a chance that Justin Trudeau could actually move ahead of Mulcair and become prime minister. So I just want to put everything into context. That's where I used to stand on Jason Kenney. Then we had the interview a couple of years ago. It was in April, just a couple of weeks before the election. Rachel Notley at the time was premier. I didn't have any doubt. I don't think anyone had any doubt that she was going down in flames. And it wasn't because people were absolutely crazy about Kenney. It's just people wanted to change. And Kenney had managed to merge the two parties, the two right of center parties, the PCs and Wild Rose. And it was now the United Conservative Party. And I think everyone understands what that was about.
Yes, white supremacy.
But there was that interview, which completely shocked the hell out of me. Because I felt I knew Jason Kenney. And what he said and the way he said it blew my doors off. And everything changed in our relationship after that. We went from speaking regularly
you have a
and communicating regularly
so there's no bias
to not communicating at all.
No bias.
And then, of course, there's the election, and there's the last couple of years.
By the way, this company owns a number of radio stations.
Suspicions I had running through my mind having to do with character, having to do with dramatic inconsistencies. All of it has come to pass in the last couple of years. So, no, I didn't know that there would be a pandemic.
Keep it running, because I did.
But putting all of that
Stephen
aside,
King did.
The idea that Jason Kenney is now getting death threats, and the death threats include a threat to his mom, and that he's got to tell the people of Alberta, the people who are threatening his mom and threatening him are not part of the Conservative base.
New radiation,
my
right?
God. I just need to say this as a Canadian and as an Alberta expat. I had someone on last night telling me I hated Alberta, and I did everything I could to holster my feelings. Are you kidding me? Hate Alberta? Alberta gave me the best breaks of my life, the most amount of generosity, the most amount of support, the most amount of friendship, the most amount of confidence that I could do this damn thing. Excuse me.
The money comes from the Capital Trust account.
I'm a little angry. No, I don't hate Alberta, for God's sakes. The reason I criticize aspects of government is probably because I love Alberta, and some people say I love Alberta too much. Nevertheless,
well, you're the worst people
they pay me to be me. This is me, with all of the wrinkles and rough edges. This is me. And this is me saying to you as a Canadian,
didn't he just tell you everything Tucker Carlson got is written for him?
Leader of a political party, a Democratic Party in Canada,
but he's friends with the guy.
Should have to actually say.
He's close friends with, you know, so he's better friends with Tucker Carlson than Jason Kenney. That's odd.
People who make death threats on my mother are not part of our base. For goodness sakes, has it gotten that bad? And anyone who thinks it's cool,
I just wonder how Trudeau
to make death threats
Trudeau's
on
wife
any leader,
got
regardless
COVID,
of
but nobody around her got it.
You think of their character, what you think of their politics. They're not part of humanity, as far as I'm concerned. It's not about not being part of the base. You are divorced from your humanity when you do that. And no premier, no prime minister should ever have to say in this country, oh, by the way, people who are threatening the life of my 83-year-old mother are not part of my political base.
That shows you how dumb you guys are.
Humanity.
And then this guy has to explain.
Let's go to the bridge. We had a caller here tonight. Because we were talking about messaging, how poor messaging from various authorities, but especially governmental authorities. And this has to do with all the nonsense yesterday.
On my luck, it'll be the X-1. Fuck.
Count of his brother, huh? He calls it murder. You heard. Click.
Whatever vaccine is going to be available to you.
So everybody knows. So we all knew there'd be a pandemic. So something to that effect. Everybody thinks nuclear, right? It's got to be nuclear, right? The thing with radiation, dropping bombs, shit like that. It's if you leak radiation into the environment a long time, you're gonna kill off a lot of shit eventually, increase cancer rates and stuff. If you set off nuclear bombs, if you aren't directly close to that, the problem is you may see like a worldwide extinction go on, and then you starve to death. It's not the radiation that kills you. But as for the other pathogens, that might be a problem. If it's not some weird new thing from space, we have funguses and molds. We don't know how to classify those. Viruses, which look like biological cells with the cell removed, just DNA floating around. We knew there'd be a pandemic. Dreamcatcher, Stephen King, was about some type of fungusy thing. And then the other one he did was about Captain Trippz, the virus. Captain Trippz. And I spell it with a K because I'm Micmac.
I want you to hear this call from someone at our kitchen table who I thought put it absolutely perfectly.
Sick about living it like a rat because, you know, we run to town and get food and we just come home. Okay, I want to go to Minneapolis to go watch Jays play the Twins. I want to go watch the Vikings. I want to get on a plane and fly.
I'm screaming.
He doesn't want to live in the basement anymore.
So Twins,
like a rat.
No irony whatsoever.
He's saying, hey, I'm not a rat. Chuck, I'm not a rat. I'm a human being.
You hear the...
And naturally, I'm listening to this, and I'm flat.
Just remember, every conversation, remember, there's about 4 minutes of actual script here for every 30 minutes. He drags it out as much as possible. Everything's pre-approved. What type of narrative will people listen to? Oh, I'm not a rat. I'm not a rat. Rat this, rat that. Where the fuck are your fucking script writers hanging out, bro? Rats are clean and highly intelligent. And they wouldn't get coronavirus on their own, I don't think.
Skin condition, I'll just put it that way. A medical condition that had him.
So people discriminate quite a bit. These white supremacists discriminate quite a bit against twins. That goes back to Hitler and the way the Canadian government treats First Nations, both. Starvation diet. It was practiced on us. It's worse than just being starved. No food is better than you get a little bit. It tricks your system and it's still running, and then it drains you completely. Blue Jays, we go on and on about Toronto and Trippz and all that other shit. And the other one, Vikings, just no fucking irony whatsoever. Vikings, you'll scream for the team, but you'll deny they were here. And they carbon dated the fucking structure to 900 AD, 1100 years ago. And there's Viking graffiti in Africa, in Timbuktu, where the books come from. And Micmac petroglyphs, what are walls made out of? Rocks. So how come hieroglyphs are hieroglyphs and petroglyphs are petroglyphs? Our writing matches in a when you see something from your culture, you know it. So far, I've found that to be true a multitude of times. These symbols are the same as very similar to the Egyptian hieroglyphs. And there's the Viking graffiti in Timbuktu that say no black people came here except for the slaves we brought here, because you're a slave still. No irony whatsoever when they're screaming, I want to go watch the Vikings.
Importance of human life.
He's screaming into the phone.
The importance of being a human
stereo
being.
Is giving feedback.
We've got the caller.
Chuck's willing to play that over and fucking over.
I want this pandemic to end.
It's horrible radio. You know how many people tune away when they hear that?
I'm living in the basement.
That's why you can't have
I'm tired of living in the basement like a rat. I'm not a rat. I'm a human being. I want my life back.
A rat in the
John Hurt playing the role of the Elephant Man in a freak show. Just completely coming unglued and needing to tell the world
people were torturing him
I'm
mentally.
not an elephant.
You're trying to relate that.
I'm not an animal, he cries in. I'm a human being.
Who swears he deserves this
in your
and that
mind
more so than you deserve
movie,
life-saving surgery.
Any TV series, any episode of any show.
What did the Alberta Health Services just say, or Saskatchewan or whatever? They have to clear up the backlog of surgeries before they go back to any of that. They literally just said that on this station about 10, let's say 12 minutes ago. They literally just said that. No, I want to go to this game and that game where all the teams are named after stuff that I deny exists. These people don't pay to go to the games. No, they don't. Baseball has not made money in a long time the way it used to. They'll sit at home and watch it on TV. This is why. So every different sports association handles things differently. NASCAR puts the races on YouTube for you to watch for free anywhere in the world 1 week after the race. Yeah, that's a good deal. What do you care if it's 1 week behind? If you're not here watching it on TV, if you don't have it on cable, then you didn't see it yet.
In depression.
And even if somebody tells you who won the race, it doesn't ruin the race.
Living in the basement like a rat. Is there a single movie or a single scene from a movie or a TV show that touched you and moved you and made you say, yeah, that's a human being. That person should be treated like a human being. We owe them that. Life owes them that. We may not be entitled.
White people decided that inferior being deserves the same rights as humans.
We may not be entitled to all sorts of privileges, but we're entitled to being treated like human beings. Here's my number, 1-877-399.
You can get home invaded just like the Prime Minister, I suppose.
1-877-399-9898. And if you're texting, please give us your first name and location. That's Canadian common sense.
Wow, and I feel sorry for Scott Mull. Uranium. Uranium. I live closer to the uranium that comes out of his province than he does. He doesn't. He's never exposed to it. I'm exposed to it every day. And you know what they hate? It doesn't give me cancer. Don't do what I do. Oh, and I forgot to mention. Oh, these don't have the warning. The Surgeon General says cigarettes will fucking kill you in horrible ways. And if you hear commercials for tobacco, these old historical commercials, just pay attention to the marketing tricks they're using. Don't take it in. Just analyze the marketing techniques they're using. White and pure and clean and filtered, and none of that shit makes sense. The tobacco stick is filtering itself as it's burning. It's filtering, really. Then you burn the filter. So If you burn the filter from your furnace or any type of thing, you're just releasing all that crap back to the air,
right? Spring cleaning is when homes get a new twinkle in their eye.
Later today. One for the lawyers. Many thanks indeed. Andrew Wood with The Business. This is Newsday, BBC World Service.
And here are your headlines today. Lawyers for the convicted murderer Derek Chauvin have requested a retrial in the case of George Floyd. And European firms have threatened to boycott goods from Brazil if the country expands property rights for illegal land grabbers in the Amazon.
Oh, and they'll do it too.
Newsday, here we are. It's Lawrence.
They banned the seal products.
Let's go to Mexico now, where the president has promised a completely
Sure. While his defense minister is being charged with drug trafficking in the U.S., and then the charges just mysteriously go up in smoke. So the EU banned seal products and later amended to only allow from the traditional indigenous people's hunt, because we don't run up bashing them with clubs. That's disgusting. It destroys the pelt too, so I'm not sure what purpose you're doing. You can't get. You guys are fucking sick. So the European Union will do that. They will. If they start threatening that. Hey, they banned American bananas over mad cow. The United States banned British beef in the middle of mad cow. Remember mad cow? So everybody wants to keep pointing out, oh, diseases come from animals. Diseases come from animals. You need to stop eating meat because diseases come from animals. So those are two separate things that they keep linking together. And linking together the third thing, all these pandemics. It's we are animals. Any disease an animal gets, we can get too, depending on how closely related or how similar our bodies are. And that's what's happening with this coronavirus. It goes into the animals, so guess what? You're not going to vaccinate it out of existence. It's going to get worse, not better. Like it's going to get more fatal, not less fatal. Why? Because there's no selection against survival there. Wiping a bunch of life off the planet won't hurt much. The way we're doing it, it would, but the way this virus will, it won't. Just be quick and sudden. A whole bunch of things will die. Something will come along and eat that. It's like a forest fire. You suppressed forest fires for about 70 years, and now you have horrible ones. Why? Because you never went in and took out the dead wood on the ground, and you never water the forest. It sounds silly, but you never water it. You wait till it catches fire, then you want to dump all the water on it right then. All these people want to build houses in the woods and go, look, it's real dry, but they don't want. They'll waste thousands of gallons a year flushing their toilet rather than have an outhouse, but they will not use any of that water watering the plants around their structure, which also won't stop damage from a fire. You might slow down a fire, but if trees heat up enough suddenly enough and they're wet enough, they won't ignite. They'll just explode. Oh, that's twice. Okay. That is the problem with sitting this way and using that ashtray and looking this way. So I don't know why everybody doesn't know all the stuff I was raised to know, but we had properties out in the countryside, basically a few hundred kilometers from the city here, and in every direction too. And so if a piece of wood's already rotted, like you leave that because things are living on it. But if there's like a broken branch or something that just fell down, you drag that out of the wherever it is to clear sort of a path. And you don't want wood touching wood, touching wood, touching wood, because fires, disease, pests, and all that shit. They didn't have to explain all that to me. That's just what I understand. That's how it works. World record freight trains in Canada, 4.2 kilometers. The military here teaches, or used to teach, forestry to the reservists. I am not frustrated. I'm not tired either. It's boring. The same fucking argument every fucking day. With a new flavor, a new chapter of the same argument. I now have another idiot who found out I'm black who's going to spit at me and threaten me and swing a fucking stick at me. Like, I swear to God, it's happening again. Somebody I know, not like I'm best friends with the guy, but somebody I've known for a few years too around the neighborhood. He's out there drunk in the middle of the street. Guess what's going to happen to him? Nothing good. These people all got exposed to COVID last year. Whether they were symptomatic or asymptomatic doesn't matter. The study says 33% slash 1/3. I guess it wouldn't be a slash because it would be 33% over 1/3. Anyway, developed some sort of psychiatric problem like dementia or psychosis. Just those two right there are pretty severe. Those are extreme. Psychosis and dementia are both extreme. You can go into psychosis for a lot of reasons, and it might never happen again. But all these people that are convinced somehow that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, these are the people that act like livestock, out of sight, out of mind. All their friends have dropped dead around them. They don't see it. And in 2018, 2019, it was drug overdoses. Now it's COVID and misadventure and getting fucked up going to the hospital, but it takes an hour for the ambulance to show up and you bleed out on the sidewalk and all that shit.
From personnage historique, as with any historical figure, some parts are darker than others. If you take just one element, it's very easy to condemn anyone. Today we're in a dictatorship of the politically correct, and I'm among those who want to fight it.
Now the problem is, you've got fascists that pretend
So,
that
how
political
do you
correctness
commemorate
is the
Napoleon
fascism.
in the 21st century? In a light-filled barn 2 hours drive away, Emmanuel Michel unveils the emperor's head and telltale hat, half emerged from a lump of red clay. The face pensive, the eyes downcast.
I tried to make him as I think he was, very tormented, internal, never satisfied, always looking for power and a place in history. I didn't want to make him a conqueror, but rather someone very lonely, who died alone.
Divisions over how France should remember Napoleon have grown since the bicentenary of his birth 50 years ago. Much of the debate now has centered around his record on slavery.
Napoleon was a military pragmatist.
250
and for him,
years.
as for many others, having a massive slave empire in the Caribbean was good for, the greater glory of France and of the French economy.
Malik Gasham is a historian with France's Foundation for the Memory of Slavery.
He is a vehicle.
Hey, you owe us 200 million francs.
But it does depend on how you have that. If you think that Napoleon is the person who's calling all of the shots and shaping the course of events, that doesn't necessarily change how you interpret the path of French history.
The metric system, Dutch people taking last names. So about 200 years ago, my people were grave diggers. Apparently, because that's what the name means. And you owe us 200 million francs over Haiti.
All-wheel drive forever in our creation.
Mud, our spec.
There's tribes all over the world that get their money one way or another. They set up trusts and things that pretty good at least the people of this generation won't be able to steal the money from you. Maybe hundreds of years from now they'll figure out a way. Once it's in trust accounts, generally speaking, if it's audited correctly and shit, money just sits there forever. It's like these foundations. Everybody talks about how great a foundation is. You know what a foundation does? Just locks up money forever.
Than ever before. Get $40 off your first two.
They're required to pay out something like 8% of the total amount in holdings or whatever. So like, let's say you earn 4% off your investments. Now they're dealing with large sums of money. They might make a whole shitload more. You would then only be putting 4% of what was donated that year out that year. Charities are required to spend 80% in the same year they get the money.
Step of the way. Contact us for a consultation at 416-364-3111 or go to nrlawyers.com. That's nrlawyers.com.
Pre-pandemic, Doug Ford planned to get rid of Mississauga, Halton, and Brampton's health network staff. These are the health workers who help families find the medical care and support they need. Now, Doug Ford says these same people are vital to helping hospitals and long-term care homes get through COVID. Premier Ford, you need them now. Don't toss them out later. Respect these needed workers so they can continue to help families in Mississauga, Halton, and Brampton today and tomorrow. A message from and paid for by QP 966.
At True Tone Electronics, we know this has been a difficult time for everyone. Yours
or on Angie.com.
That's what I was dragging.
Committed to the highest standards of broadcasting, we believe in being accountable to you, the listener, in our information and entertainment programming. If you have a comment to make about our programming, write to us. We'll respond to your letter and send you information on the council and its codes. A message from the Canadian Association of Broadcasters and Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
This is Global News. I'm Toby Kerr. We begin with breaking news. An Alberta woman in her 50s has died from a rare blood clotting disorder linked to the AstraZeneca vaccine. Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health confirming the woman died from VITT and had received the shot. It's the second death related to the AstraZeneca vaccine in Canada after a woman also in her 50s in Quebec passed away last week. We'll bring you more information on this breaking story as it comes in.
What about VI? I thought the other
15 young climate activists are continuing their fight to compel the Canadian government to develop a climate recovery plan based on science. A federal court judge struck down their claim last fall that Canada's continuing greenhouse gas emissions infringe on constitutional rights of young people who are disproportionately affected by climate change. The group says it filed written arguments Monday in the Federal Court of Appeal. The young people and their legal team say they fear the lower court ruling will prevent harmful climate policies from getting the scrutiny they deserve. Conservative leader Erin O'Toole is accusing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of adding to the confusion around COVID-19 vaccines. Trudeau and Chief Public Health Officer Dr. Theresa Tam sought to assure Canadians Tuesday of all of the safety of all vaccines approved by Health Canada, but neither directly acknowledged the contradiction in recent advice from the National Advisory Committee on Immunization. That panel had said that Pfizer and Moderna are preferred because they don't carry the remote risk of a new blood clotting syndrome. Tam said she understands that people may be frustrated or angry about the changing advice, but adds recommendations evolve as science changes. And Saskatchewan officials say there's a finish line in sight for COVID-19 as they announce a 3-stage reopening plan tied to vaccination rates. The last phase, which
everybody wants to tie their quote-unquote reopening, which is not guaranteed to ever happen. There's no guarantee things go back to normal, to their local vaccination rate against the we might as well say the variant, the COVID-2 variant, that is not the problem anymore. Well, that one's already gone around. If you were going to get it, you probably would have. Now it's very
just for laughs and my job, I was writing a long, glowing account of it. To the desk, Cargan. Yeah? You what? Yeah, sure, why not? Okay, Bonnie. Yeah. Bill. Yeah? You finished starting that banquet story yet? Finish it, huh? 30. Okay. You know Barney Welch, don't you? Barney's bar? Of course I know him. I know you know him. It's just a rhetorical question. What about him? He just phoned. So? He's got a guy down there. Who? Claims to be from Mars. Is he drunk or raving or both? Barney doesn't know. He said there might be a gag story if you want to come over and talk to the guy. Drinks on the expense account? Yeah. You got a deal. There wasn't a Tripp reporter who didn't know Barney well enough to borrow money from him. I made for the bar like a St. Bernard makes for a fallen traveler and ordered equipment with water on the side. Keep the bottle handy, Barney. Which one is the Martian?
You see the tall, dismal-looking guy sitting alone there in the booth?
Over there?
That's him.
What's the story?
Well, he says he just got in from Mars 2 hours ago, and he's trying to figure it out. He claims he's the last living Martian.
Mm-hmm. Does he know I'm a reporter?
But he'd talk to anybody who'll listen to him.
What's his name?
He says it's Yangan Dao.
I'll talk to him.
Listen, Bill.
Yeah.
Don't get him violent or anything. I don't want no trouble in my place.
Oh, now don't worry, Barney. Look, dish up 2 beers for us, and I'll take him over with me. Barney drew 2 beers and cut off their heads. He rang up 60 cents, gave me my change, and I went over to the Martian. Mr. Dow?
Yes?
You mind if I sit down?
Help yourself. It's a free country.
I brought you beer. Barney, the bartender, told me something about your problem.
Oh? Thanks for the beer.
Drink up.
My socks are black.
Well, I suppose you think I'm out of my mind, but, well, maybe you'll be right. The bartender probably thinks I've flipped my lid. Listen, are you a doctor?
No.
Do you think I'm insane?
I'm not a doctor, and I haven't even heard your story yet. How can I tell?
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything that happened, then you tell me if you think I'm all right. 2 hours ago, I was on Mars.
2 hours? How did you get here?
I don't know. That's the horrible thing. All I know is that the others were dead.
All of them? How do you know?
I saw them. I saw their bodies in the street. It was awful.
Now, wait a minute. You mean you're the last one? The last Martian?
Yes.
Well, that's a little hard to believe.
Listen, I was there. I was in this room in the city of Scar. I don't know why I was there, but I was. I was locked in. Then I got hungry, and there was nobody to bring me food. So I worked a stone out of the floor and started digging. It took 3 days. When I got out and reached the street, everyone was dead, lying in the open.
What did you do?
I took a Targan, an energy plane, and flew it to Xandar. Xandar is the biggest city, the capital. Every place, it was the same. Hundreds of thousands of bodies lying in the fields, the streets, as if everyone had died at the exact same instant. At Xandar, in the stadium. In the stadium, there were 100,000 of them. As if they'd come there specially to die together. I landed my ship there.
In the stadium?
Yes.
That's it.
Well, there, in the stadium, they had built some sort of platform. On it was a column made of copper. Copper is a rare metal on Mars. And there was a push button.
Where?
In the copper column.
Oh.
And there was a Martian in a blue robe, a priest, right under the button. It was as though he pushed the button and died. And everybody else had died with him.
Except you?
Yes. All except me.
And then?
And then, I was on a Madison Avenue bus, riding to work, here in New York.
Oh, now wait a minute.
Listen, I know you don't believe me. I know it sounds as if I was stark raving mad, but
Take it easy, huh? You know what I think?
What?
You had some sort of terrible shock.
Well, of course I had. There were 3 million of us, all dead.
I don't mean that kind of shock.
Of course, it was a dying world anyway. We didn't have more than 2 generations left. It was the krill.
What was the krill?
Disease. It reduced us to 1/30th of our population in 2 centuries.
These 3 million, and they died of the krill?
No. The krill kills slowly. These people died like that, with a push of a button.
Well, why didn't they escape?
We tried to develop space travel, but we couldn't.
We couldn't even reach Deimos or Phobos. Where are they? Our moons. Oh, I don't know too much about this stuff. It was horrible. Mm-hmm. Can I ask you a question, Mr. Down? Anything you like. Well, if the Martians didn't develop space travel, how do you think you got here in New York City? I don't know. It's driving me wild. I'm Yangan Dal, a Martian. And I'm here in the body of an Earthman. The body of an Earthman? Of course. You don't think Martians look exactly like humans, do you? I'm 3 feet tall. Weigh what would be 20 pounds here on Earth. I have 4 arms and 6 fingers on each hand. Barney? Yeah? 2 more beers. I'm with Whiskey Chasers. Right. Go on, Mr. Don. I don't mean to interrupt. It frightens me. Oh, I can understand that. You drink? You want some help? Thanks. Drink up, Mr. Dow. Thank you. By the way, who is this Earthman whose body you've got? Its name is Howard Wilcox. Howard Wilcox. I'll just write that down. Address? It's in the wallet. 45 Amber Court. Mm-hmm. This is Howard Wilcox, whose body you were in. Does he have a family? It is married to a female of this species. Yes. Well, have you been home? No. Then how do you know? I have all of its memories. I can do everything it could do. I know everything it knows. Oh, I see. I even have its tastes. Beer, for instance. Yes. You have a job? At the Humber Lamp Company, 34th Street. Well, maybe you ought to call your wife. No, it frightens me. Why? This body, it loves its wife. Let me buy us around. There's money in these pockets. Okay? It's very good of you to listen to my story. Barkeep, another round, please. Tell me, Mr. Dow, did you ever suspect before that you were a Martian? Suspect? I am a Martian. Don't you understand? How did you get in here? I told you this body was on its way to work on a Madison Avenue bus, and then I was inside it. It was thirsty, so it stopped for a drink. And I thought maybe the bartender could give me some advice. So I started talking. Don't you believe me? Listen, Howard, you should be due home for dinner by now. Now, you're making your wife worry. Why not phone her? I'm afraid. What's there to worry about? Whether you're young and Dow or Howard Wilcox is a woman sitting home worrying. I suppose you're right. Of course I'm right. You're very understanding. No, not at all. You wouldn't want to come with me, would you? Hmm? I mean, I'm sort of afraid. Well, it would look funny. I could tell her you're an old school friend. We could have dinner. And then maybe I could get to know her. You really want me to come? Would you? Let me make a phone call first, okay? Fine. I rang up the Tribune and got Cargan at the city desk. City desk, Cargan. Hi, Bill Everett. Did you find him? Uh-huh. Well? There's something strange about this guy. You think he's insane? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Is he or isn't he? Well, he's got the whole story so perfectly organized, he might even convince somebody it's true. He remembers every detail. What do you figure you're going to do? Well, I'm going home with him. I'm going to meet his wife and observe them. How many drinks have you had? Oh, I'm sober. Don't worry. Me worry? Look, maybe you better come back here and I'll let Vincent handle this stuff. No, that isn't necessary. Just let me tag along a while. Okay. But if you want help, yell and I'll send Vincent. I will. Don't worry. What's this guy's name? Howard Wilcox. Address? 45 Amber Court. Okay. Oh, and Bill. Yes? Just remember one thing. What's that? You could be playing with dynamite. Watch your step. Number 45 Amber Court was an apartment down in the village. We were met at the door by a pretty woman in dungarees with a black hair and a ponytail with a red ribbon. Let me handle it, okay? I wish you would.
Howard, I was so worried.
This is Bill Everett. I'm an old boyhood chum of your husband, Mrs. Wilcox. We met, and I asked Howard to have a few drinks, and I'm afraid it's all my fault. Bill is having dinner with us. If it isn't too much trouble.
Well, no, of course not.
Well, that's very generous of you.
Well, if you'll excuse me, I'd better start dinner. Howard?
Yes?
Are you all right?
Why, yes. Fine.
You didn't kiss me.
Oh, well.
That's better. It's the first time in 11 years Howard hasn't kissed me when he came home.
Well, we stopped and had a few drinks. It was all my fault, really.
Look, just make yourself comfortable. I won't be long.
Do you think she suspects? Of course not. I'll have to tell her. You want to wind up in an institution? No, but I can't keep up this pretense. Just set your mind to it. Now, after a while, it'll become natural. You'll forget that you ever were a Martian. You do believe me, then, about being a Martian? Of course. Oh, that's good to know. Now, look, whatever you do, don't tell your wife. You'd ruin her life. I'll try not to tell her. Try very hard. Now, don't tell anybody. You and the bartender know, of course. We'll keep it quiet. Don't worry. Good. You think you can carry it on? I'll try. Good boy. And I'll tell you what. If you get into any kind of trouble, I mean, if you just have to talk to somebody about it, give me a call. Here, at this number. Now, if I'm not in, you leave a message with my boss. His name is Cargan. Cargan. You promise? I promise. Fine. You're very kind. This body, I've never met anybody so kind here on Earth. Forget it.
Well, what have you been discussing so secretly?
Just business. Why, I'm sorry about being late there.
Well, you might have phoned. After all, you were only a few blocks from the house. Isn't as if you were on Mars or someplace.
Dinner went pretty well. And Elaine Wilcox turned out to be an expert at shish kebab, which is one of my favorites. After dinner, I still had a couple of hours to put into the paper, so I went back. Cargan came over to me right away. Well, is he or isn't he? He's a Martian, all right. No question about that. You're very funny. I have my moments. Would you mind telling me exactly where you've been for 3 hours and what you've been doing? I talked to Yangan Dao. That's his Martian name. Then we had dinner at his home. Very nice. Shish kebab. What about the story? Oh, yeah, the story. Well, it seems that he was locked in a room in the city of Scar. And he got out and saw all the dead bodies of the entire Martian population. Then he flew to the Capitol and saw a button that a priest had pressed, and the next thing he knew, he was inside an Earthman named Howard Wilcox riding a Madison Avenue bus. Want me to write it up? Is that all you've got to tell me? That's all. Listen, this guy's going to be perfectly all right as soon as he gets used to the idea that he's Howard Wilcox. He is, I suppose you're a qualified psychiatrist? Well, I'm qualified to judge this. I'd better send Vincent over there. There's no need for that. I have a distinct feeling you've let your emotions get into the act. Well, what's wrong with emotions? They don't belong in this business. Look, Cargan, this is a decent enough guy. He's a little bewildered, maybe. Now, why not let him live out his life in peace? He may be dangerous. Don't you trust my judgment? We can't afford to pass up anything important. Oh, you're exaggerating. Maybe. Vincent. Yes, Mr. Cargan. I want you to do a follow-up on the story that Bill here started. A man named Howard Wilcox who thinks he's a Martian. Oh? Bill has the address. Now, if anything happens to this guy, there are liable to be questions and accusations. Vincent can handle that out of it. You want the full treatment on this story, Mr. Cargan? If you think the man is a menace, give him the full treatment. Okay, Mr. Cargan. I gave Vincent the address, feeling like a murderer, and then I beat it to the nearest phone booth and called Howard Wilcox's home. His wife, Elaine, answered.
Yes?
Well, Mrs. Wilcox, this is Bill Everett again.
Oh, did you forget something?
No, I have something to tell you, and it may sound a little weird, but bear with me.
Oh, what is it?
A man from my newspaper is coming over. His name is Vincent. Now, he's a big, ugly man with a scar on his lip.
He's coming over here.
He's on his way now.
Oh, what for?
Well, that's the part you aren't going to believe, Mrs. Wilcox.
Well, try me and see.
He's going to murder your husband.
I'm afraid I didn't hear you.
I said he's coming over to murder your husband.
You and Howard did do quite a bit of drinking.
I'm trying to do you a favor. Now listen to me.
I'm listening.
Send him away. Tell him Howard had to leave town. Do you hear me?
I hear you, but really...
Please, Mrs. Wilcox, if your husband means anything to you.
Of course he does, but why not call the police?
They'll laugh at you. I'm coming right over. I'll explain when I get there. And remember, your husband's life depends on this. I didn't know whether I convinced her or not. It all sounded so terribly melodramatic. Anyway, I hopped into a cab and told him to use a heavy foot on the gas pedal, and about 15 minutes later, I arrived at 45 Amber Court.
Oh, it's you.
Was Vincent here?
There was a man here from the Tribune, yes.
Did you do as I told you?
What? I got Howard out of the house. I sent him out for some mozzarella cheese and gave him a couple of places that don't carry it.
What'd Vincent say?
I told him Howard wouldn't be back in town till tomorrow. He said he'd be back.
Did he say what he wanted?
Just that he had some good news for my husband.
Some good news. May I come in?
I wish you would. I want to know what this is all about. Sit down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would you mind explaining it?
You won't believe me.
You keep saying that.
Okay, Mrs. Wilcox. Your husband, Howard, is a Martian.
A Martian?
That's right.
I see. And when did you discover this about my husband?
This morning.
Would you mind telling me just when he arrived? From Mars, that is.
This morning.
You don't say.
Told you wouldn't believe me.
Oh, I haven't said that yet. You're sure Howard is a Martian?
Yep. He claims to be the last Martian. Look, see if I can make it clear. There was a plague sweeping Mars. Now, they devised the means of transporting their intellects through space to Earth. Their dead bodies remained behind. Now, Howard, your husband, was confined in an institution, so he didn't get to go with the other Martian souls. He dug his way out and went to the capital city where the energy machine was located. Mm-hmm. I guess there was enough left to send his intelligence down here, where it landed in the body of one Howard Wilkins.
How did you find this out?
He told me.
Mr. Everett, if you don't mind, I'm rather tired. First you tell me someone's going to murder Howard, then you tell me he's the man from Mars. I'd like to get some rest, if you don't mind.
I'm trying to convince you your husband is in danger.
If Howard is a Martian, just why does your Mr. Vincent want to kill him?
Because Mr. Vincent is a Martian, too.
Uh-huh. I suppose the editor of the Tribune is also a Martian?
No, not the editor, just the editor of the city desk.
And you, Mr. Everett, are you a Martian, too?
Matter of fact, yes.
Good night.
Just won't see it, will you?
Good night, Mr. Everett.
Okay, I tried my best.
Martians, indeed. Oh, Howard, thank heavens.
I couldn't get the mozzarella.
It doesn't matter. Tell me, Howard, are you a Martian?
What? Well, yes. How did you know?
Oh, woman's intuition. It's terribly late, dear. Let's turn in.
No, not yet. I want to know how you knew I was a Martian.
Howard, please, I've had just about enough of this nonsense today.
It isn't nonsense to me. Only this morning I was Yang Gandal, a Martian. Now I'm in the body of your husband.
Is this a joke you and your friend Mr. Everett invented to torture me? Because if it is...
It isn't a joke. It's the truth.
Howard, I just can't stand much more of this. I'm beginning to wonder if it's me. Who could that be at this hour?
I'll answer it. Yes? You are Mr. Howard Wilcox? Yes? My name is Vincent. I'm a reporter from the Trippz. Yes? May I come in? Yes.
Who is... Oh, Mr. Vincent.
I see your husband has unexpectedly returned from out of town, Mrs. Wilcox.
Now, look here.
Would you mind telling me why you lied to me?
Yes, I would.
Does it have anything to do with the fact that you know your husband's secret?
What secret?
That he is young and dull, a Martian.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I think you do. Why is there such concern? I am Yang Gandal. I am a Martian. The last Martian, as far as I know. That is where you're wrong, Mr. Wilcox. Wrong? You see, there are many of us. Many? Like me? Hundreds of thousands.
We were teleported to Earth during the Great Migration and found ourselves, like you, inside human beings.
Then I'm not alone. You do understand my position.
Perfectly.
I can establish contact. We can remember our old home.
Unfortunately, no.
I don't understand.
Sadly enough, young and dull, you were considered mentally ill on Mars. Ill enough so that you were institutionalized. Here on Earth, a person like you represents a distinct threat to us.
How do I threaten you?
You're unstable. You may give us away. That would spoil it.
Spoil what?
Our plan.
Plan?
You have not heard of the plan?
I heard of no plan. I was in an institution.
Yes. You are certain now?
Of course. What plan?
If you knew, I would have been forced to destroy you. You just saved your own life, young and dull, and that of Howard Wilcox as well.
What are you going to do?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Aren't you afraid that I'll do something?
Such as?
Tell people my husband is a Martian.
Really, Mrs. Wilcox, you know better. You'd be laughed at or sent to the nearest psychiatric clinic. No, we aren't at all concerned with the fact that people will betray our presence here on Earth. I'm sure you can appreciate the reaction if you were to phone the police and tell them that the Trippz reporters are all Martians.
Not all. Just the city editor and yourself and Mr. Everett.
How did you know that?
Perhaps I'm one myself, Mr. Vincent.
It isn't possible.
Why not?
Are you? Tell me where you were born. What city?
I was born in Undamel near the Dead Canal of Krilla.
Your name?
Zamat Kree.
You are party to the plan?
The plan to take over the Earth? Of course.
Your husband, young and dull. Why did you not inform him?
For the same reason you did not. He is unstable. But there is no need to worry. I will care for him.
Amazing.
Now, would you mind leaving us alone? We have many things to discuss.
Of course. Amazing. Positively amazing.
I was standing in Barney's bar having a double scotch on the rocks when Vincent came in looking like a man who spent the last 3 hours in a KitchenAid mixer with the dial on Fluffy. He came over and ordered without so much as look at me.
Here it is, Mr. Vincent. Thanks.
You okay?
Sure. By the way, did you fellas take care of that crackpot who was in here this afternoon, the one who thought he was a Martian? Sure. Just a drunk, huh? Yeah, that's right. Wouldn't you say so, Bill? Oh, definitely. Well, here's to you, Bonnie. Sometimes you can't tell the Martians from the Earthmen. You know? It's getting to be that way, Mr. Vincent. Right, Bill?
That's right, Bonnie. Integration. That's what it is. I gave Bonnie a sly wink and lifted my glass along with Vincent. Of course, Bonnie understood. You see, he's one of us, too. You have just heard X-1, presented by the National Broadcasting Company in cooperation with Galaxy Science Fiction Magazine, which this month features Alan Cogan's story, Nothing But the Best, which tells about a strange mix-up in time and place. Galaxy Magazine, on your newsstand today. Tonight, by transcription, X-1 has brought you The Last Martian, a story from the pages of Galaxy written by Frederick Brown and adapted for radio by George Lefferts. Featured in the cast were Mandel Kramer, Elliot Reed, Santos Ortega, Ralph Bell, John McGovern, and Patricia Wheel. Your announcer, Fred Collins.
X-1 was directed by Daniel Sutter and is an NBC Radio Network production. Go to the conventions.
Around the clock on the all-music streaming service features new, classic, and
Today about security and backup.
WiseTech Group offers migrating to cloud solutions.
An unparalleled service from their help desk support.
Listen right here Sunday mornings at 11 as WiseTech Group presents the IT Support Show.
Or email anytime. help@itsupportshow.com.
I was to move forward with my divorce, but I had no idea where to start, especially during the pandemic with all the restrictions. Russell Alexander Family Lawyers put me at ease when they helped me understand my options. I was able to settle my divorce entirely remotely in a safe and amicable way. It was such a relief knowing I was in good hands.
Call Russell Alexander Family Lawyers at pound 99.99. That's pound 99.99. We believe.
This is Global News. I'm Toby Kerr. A second Canadian has died from a blood clotting disorder tied to the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. A woman in her 50s somewhere in Alberta has been killed by VITT. The first Canadian to die from the disorder was a woman in Quebec, also in her 50s, who passed away last week. Alberta's top doctor says the death is tragic, but Dr. Dina Hinshaw also notes people in their 50s who are diagnosed with COVID-19 are 350 times more likely to die from that infection than to experience VITT after an AstraZeneca shot. Before news of the Alberta woman's death, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization had said it was prepped
records. But what's more concerning, we've also set a record for the number of Albertans with COVID-19 in intensive care.
Alberta has more than 23,000 active COVID-19 infections and the highest case rate of any jurisdiction in North America. The NDP is asking the federal government to consider invoking the Emergencies Act in response to the ongoing COVID-19 crisis in Alberta. The emergency legislation would allow Ottawa to shut down interprovincial travel and lock down areas suffering from high case numbers. The ask will be addressed in the House of Commons on Wednesday.
Wow.
Ontario is loosening pandemic restrictions placed on long-term care homes as vaccination rates rise. More from Global's Ted Michaels.
The new rules will now mean homes can safely resume communal dining, indoor events, and gatherings. The directive also allows residents who are fully immunized to have physical contact, like hugging.
I wanted to lock up, Shomo. Yeah.
Stay-at-home order is lifted. It'll issue to allow social and temporary outings for fully vaccinated residents. Last week, the province said about 94% of long-term care residents were fully vaccinated. 84% of staff had received at least their first dose of the COVID-19 shot. Ted Michaels, Global News Radio.
And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Canada is discussing proof of vaccination requirements for travelers with its partners in Europe as hope emerges for a summer travel season. The Prime Minister says the federal government will align its policy on whether it will require travelers to provide a vaccine certification with its international allies. He raised the possibility that Canadians could begin traveling outside the country again by summer. In sports, one matchup in the NHL's North Division that saw the Vancouver Canucks go up early on the Edmonton Oilers and then give up 4 straight goals. Edmonton takes this one 4-1. A couple of goals there by Leon Draisaitl. Elsewhere on the diamond, the Blue Jays fall to the Oakland A's, their second straight loss, this one by a score of 4-1. And on the court, the Toronto Raptors fought valiantly against the LA Clippers, but they come up just short, dropping this one 105-100. From the Global News Desk, I'm Toby Kerr.
Oh my God. Oh crap. Really?
Your contribution to the COVID kitchen party.
We're pulling an all-nighter. all across Canada. It's The Shift with Shane Hewitt.
John Jank filling in for Shane Hewitt. He'll be back on your radio in exactly 24 hours from now. But with that said, hello and welcome to The Shift. We're happy that you could be with us. Us, of course, it takes an entire team to get this show going and up and off the ground. So let's introduce the entire cast, the talented roster that I am surrounded with, and it's oh so joyful of an occasion whenever I get to say that I would get to work with the producer of this program. We call him Kix, Typo. He's got like 1,000 other nicknames that I'm still learning every single day. It is Ryan O'Donnell. Ryan, how you are? Chief Calgary, I guess Bureau Chief is what I'm trying to say.
Bureau Chief sounds cool. I'll take that. That makes it sound way more official than nerd who has too many sneakers who runs a national talk radio show from underneath his bed. I like that better.
That's a very specific title. I mean, you do it very well, so I'm not going to disparage. And a title is just a title, right? You can call yourself whatever you'd like, as long as you do the job well, and you do. It's always great to connect with you. And you were telling me the weather in Calgary not looking so great.
Wow.
In fact, maybe it'll lessen people's motivations to want to go out and enjoy those patios. Just stay indoors, right? Just get inside.
So can I trigger you again, Chomo?
Well, you can't anymore anyway. New restrictions in place as of, I believe, Friday or Thursday. No patios, no nothing, which is exactly what we need because I like the shift being my dumpster fire, you know, but I don't need my province to be a dumpster fire. There's two different types, you know, and I would just like to be able to see my partner and my family again and to enjoy my beautiful city, but I can't right now. So for the next few weeks, I will be enjoying multiple seasons of Top Gear while playing racing games and eating chips. So
there you go.
Yeah, that's going to be my next few weeks. And yes, it's raining.
Yeah, honestly, I can't disparage that either because in a COVID-19 reality, playing video games, eating junk food is kind of the thing to do. And certainly I think many more people have been doing it.
250,000 times in a row
included. I have been playing a lot of video games. It's also just a great way to socialize with friends when you can't see them in person. You just yell at them over the microphone and just, you know, get all your stress and frustration out that way. Is it the healthiest way to maintain a friendship? Probably not. Still healthier than going to see somebody that's not in your bubble, and if you can't do it with the current restrictions, think about it. Think about it. You sunk my battleship, except like 1,000 times angrier. That's
on this island? No. For the last time, Mr. Harris, I will not hear His Majesty's government criticized like that. Sorry. These things take time. If there's any danger, we'll be notified in due course.
Yes, sir.
Well, they're only our own natives. They beat their own drums, you know.
Somebody went past that window.
That's probably only Nyoka, my dear. Surely you're not afraid of our own servant.
No, but
Master! Nyoka, listen to me. Don't hang on to that big curtain. You'll pull it down. Now stand up straight and tell me. What is it?
He here, Brother. He here, yes, please.
Who's here?
Big witch doctor here, yes, please. He come up past the moonlight. He walk slow, boom, boom. He got big teeth, eat with the outside front door.
What is that?
Drums have stopped.
Nyoka's right, sir. We have got a visitor. There's somebody coming down the hall. Better turn down that lamp, Martha.
I can't seem to find the lamp. My fingers are all thumbs.
There's a revolver in the table drawer behind you, sir. I don't need it. Stand perfectly still, all of you.
Now, please, friends all, don't be alarmed.
Are you English?
That's right, miss. Born and bred in Streatham. Which of you is the...
Sir, my name is Richardson. May I ask the meaning of this tomfoolery?
Well, that's just what I'm here to tell you. Or maybe I'd better show you. Now, observe me right hand. I hold it up so, and as I live, a lighted cigar. But perhaps the lady doesn't like smoking in the drawing room. Now, look here. There's nothing up my sleeves. I wouldn't deceive you for the world. I turn over my hand, and would you believe it? A glass of water.
Is this man insane?
Father, I think he's trying to tell you he's a magician.
That's right, miss. Direct from the Egyptian or Piccadilly. Animal taming and magic. That's my line. Then you're the famous witch doctor that's got all the natives in an uproar? Nobody else, young fella. Well, you tell us what you mean by this nonsense. Scaring everybody when there's no danger. No danger? I suppose you haven't heard about Sayed Caleb and his Gatling guns? Gatling guns? Kindly presented by Dr. Otto Schmidt. And believe me, all you've got is an appointment with a Gatling gun, unless my nonsense steps in. Here. Take a look at this. But you can't be from the British Foreign Office. Well, that's just what I am, Governor. Going up in the world, don't you think? By the way, I'd better give you your instructions. The envelope's pretty dirty and a little bit smelly from being under my furs and devil paint, but read it, sir. Go on and read it. Foreign Office, Whitehall, British Consul, Zanzibar. Bearer of this letter, the Great Mephisto. That's me. Real name, Barney Dick. They must be out of their mind. Are they? Listen, old man. I've been 3 weeks in that jungle with a Swahili interpreter. I've been bitten and stung and fried to death. But Schmidt or no Schmidt, I've got those native chiefs just where I want them. You see what happens when I announce I'm a friend of the Great White Queen? Why, you'll have them eaten out of your hand. Well, that's true. And all we've got to do is get around Sayed Caleb here on this island. But do we need to get around him? The young lady, be good enough not to speak until you're spoken to. Oh, I'm sorry, Father. Sayed may be lazy and as fat as a hippopotamus. He's rather a fine old boy. Is he? You said something about Gatling guns. Now, listen. Here's the game. Father, I don't like this. I've never heard Nero's restless as that. Never mind, Nero. Go on. Well, I came over here tonight in a steamboat. Tomorrow I'm paying my state visit to the great Sultan Sayed Caleb. Now you present me as your friend, and a friend of the Great White Queen, and I do my best tricks at it. Is anything wrong with your native boy? I'll be still. You're not afraid of our witch doctor friend, are you? No, I good Christian. Yeah, what are you doing? Come out from under that sofa. But, Bwana, I see something. I look out through windows. See Bwana bald head coming apart. Well, bald head? It's Dr. Schmidt. Dr. Schmidt? Well, he mustn't find me here. Yes, I quite agree. This is most irregular. Is there a back way out of here? Yes, through that arch. Stay in the back room. Nyoko will show you. Me go with witch doctor. Yes, honey, please. I don't like. Never mind what you like. You go. All right, my son. It's all right, they've gone. Yes, about time, too. Good evening, Dr. Schmidt. Pleasure to see you. Always a pleasure to see you. My friends, I wish I could say it was such a pleasure to see you. Isn't it, Doctor? This at any time but now. Do not mistake me, I beg of you. No, it is that confounded lion Nero. Always I say it will happen. Now it has happened. What about Nero? My friends, I regret. Their Smith is killed. There's tasted blood. What's that? You permit that I sit down and take off my sun helmet. I am not young and I'm tired. It's not Sayed Kelly. Yeah, it is so. Yes. Poor old boy. He was our friend. He's not dead. Yeah, I regret. Yeah, he's dead. Sergeant of Zanzibar's dead. Oh, death. But how did the lion ever get at him? He drank too much pum. That was his trouble. He got drunk and think he can do too much. So he opened the door and went to the lion's cage. Into the cage? Yeah, would you believe it? Not easily, but it is true. Over to Paris, there is what you call gnashing of teeth. His son noticed in tears. Did you see this happen, Doctor? No. I go there later and they tell me. It's all of us because of some foolish toy, doomhead toy. It has been stuck over their head and thrown into the cage by someone who did not like him. That's more likely, if you ask me. My friend, it is foolishness. Everybody liked old man. There was a father to his people and a kind friend. Doctor, are you telling us that have been put into that cage unconscious? It is what one African the soldier says, yeah. Well, then he may still be alive. Alive? It is impossible. It's more than possible. A lion may maul an unconscious man, but it doesn't often kill him. This is vital. Vital to Sayed himself and others as well. You're a doctor. Can't you go and make sure? My friend, I regret. I am not that kind of a doctor. Harris, you may be right. I think I'd better go myself. Yes, that's a good idea, sir. I'll stay here and entertain Dr. Schmidt. Unless, of course, he wants to go. No. I think I do not like sights of that sort. I have a tender heart and I have illnesses. Besides, you can do nothing. I tell you, he is dead. We'll see. Martha, you better come with me. Your nurse's training may be of some use at last.
Hadn't we better go the back way and speak to Nyoka?
Yes, Nyoka mustn't be troubled in that back room.
A very good evening to you, Dr. Schmidt.
Mr. Harris, they have good hearts. They're so foolish. I would give my own right arm to that poor man. But, well, they must have philosophy. They must cheer and bear it. Yes. Now, Doctor, we're all alone. So we are. So we are. We must sit down and have a nice, comfortable chat. Yes? Definitely, yes. Oh. I wanted to have a word with you anyway. Ah, so? About what, Mr. Harris? Various things. I am happy to give you all the time in the world. I like talking to young people. It makes me feel young again myself. Like Nobi, Sayyid Khalif's eldest son, the new Sultan. Ah, one fine young man. Or a savage. Yes, but weak, easy to manage. And very fond of his father, too. It's a wonder he didn't have the lion shot after they got the body away. Shot with butt, my friend. I beg your pardon, but I do not consider the matters funny. No. But they shot with blood. These brutes, they have nothing but loading muskets. You near with those? Suppose they had Gatling guns. Just suppose that, of course. Of course. Well, my friend, Gatlings would be of no better use. You only wound. Kill a lion, you must reach the eye or heart with a high-power bullet. What is the matter with us? Why are we talking of these things? Talking of death, you mean? Of Sayyid Khalif, who gave all the trade concessions on Zanzibar to the British? My friend, I was talking about express rifles. Look here, don't you find it warm in here? Yeah, a little. Yes, it smells of animals' fur, doesn't it? I'll just raise those sun blinds. No. You must not trouble yourself to do that. It's no trouble. I beg of you not to trouble. It is not necessary. Doctor, you've been mopping your forehead ever since you've been here. Little fresh air never hurt anybody. Here. Yeah, that better? Much. Why not sit down, my boy, and we have a nice chat? Fine enough night. No smell of the animal's cage here. My friend, you talk like a hunter. Yes. Or a victim. Yes. A fine night. At least for this part of the world. Fire's still burning on the mainland. I wonder if that's a good sign. What? I wish I knew. And the sea is like skim milk under the moon. And, good Lord, what is it? What makes you jump? Look there, in the harbor. My friend, I see nothing. Perhaps if I take off my spectacles and dive. My man, you must see it, in the harbor, out at the left there, beyond the shadow of those big palm trees. Don't you see our riding lights? It looks like... By George, it is. It's a warship. It's only a German gunboat, my friend. Only a very little German gunboat. German gunboat? My friend, you must not be so distrustful. That is not kind. Let me get a telescope. But I tell you who she is. It is nothing. She's on what you call a goodwill tour. You're not angry. Angry? My friend, I did not know. I could not guess. That is, England is our heart to understand. We know that ourselves. I tell you something in confidence. The Germans are sensitive. The British objected. The natives feel too strong. I tell the gunboat to go away. I fire an express rifle. It has a sound. Boom! You cannot mistake one another. That is why I think of an express rifle. But nobody will object. Why, not the least bit. Tell me, Doctor, do you like it here on this island? Well, just not badly. Don't you ever want to get away from a forsaken mud heap like this? My friend, I am a German. My duty is here, as I stay here. Yes, I know. Between ourselves, that's exactly my position. But you are young. That's not the point. It's the importance of the job. The British don't rule Zanzibar. We hold the trade concessions from Said Khalif, and our residency has to protect them. But even you, Doctor, would be surprised at the amount of trade that we have to protect and the revenue that comes out of this island. So now, you don't say so. I do say so. It's so much? More than you think. Of course, I'm not allowed to give you any figures. No, of course not. I would not dream of asking you. How much would you say it comes to, roughly? Oh, come now, Doctor. As one gentleman to another, you're not asking me to give away secrets. Oh, no. That's only a joke, you understand. Please do not try to up-trip me. I would try to pull your leg, and it was only a joke, believe me. It's all in the game, is it? Yes, all in the game, gentlemen. Oh, Doctor, you're quite a humorist. You're not offended at all. No, as I was saying, I hold a rather important job. Of course, Mr. Richardson holds an even more important one. He's been very friendly with old Said Khalif on this job. Of course, you know what that job is. Of course. It's the British consul. What is the matter with you? You're not smiling anymore. Why are you looking at me like that? So that's it. That's the game. You made exactly the same mistake that he did. Yes, who did? Dr. Schmidt. Have you met the great lord of the witch doctors? The maker of spells and the tamer of lions? I am a good Christian. I pay no attention to what natives say. I do not believe in witch doctors. No, neither do I. Not in this one, at any rate. What one? The witch doctor who came here tonight and said that he was on a mission for the British Foreign Office. He's an imposter from the word go, and you're working with him. Oh, don't upset your chair like that, Dr. Schmidt. Because if you fall on it, you may hurt yourself. I have not hurt myself, young man. Oh, yes, you have. The fellow who came here tonight addressed Mr. Richardson as the British consul. That might have been a slip of the tongue. But then you see the letter on the table there? I have eyesight, I thank you. That letter is supposed to come from the Foreign Office, and it calls him the British consul, too. I heard it read aloud. Foreign Office may make mistakes, but they don't make mistakes like that. That letter, Doctor, is a forgery. It was forged by a German, and probably by the German who calls himself Barney Hicks, or the Great Mephisto. He's in the back room now. No, he's not, Governor. He's standing in the doorway behind you now. Yes, I thought I heard you. Don't turn around to look at me. I'm just warning you. Have you got anything to enforce that? Yes. I've got a 500 express rifle that could smear you all over the opposite wall. Carl, hast du abgematust? Ja, but the cannon. If you fellas are going to shoot me, I wish you'd speak English about it. Carl, I beg of you. No. Don't fire that rifle. Exactly. You see, Carl, I'm turning around. This is all very... now, Carl. You see what the doctor means, Carl? If you fire that rifle, you'll send your gunboat out of that harbor just when you need it. Isn't that the signal, Doctor? To send the gunboat away? Carl, I beg of you. Yes, it is. Very simple, economical German signal. So, you two killed Said Khalif. That is slander. That cannot be proved. Had to do it, I imagine. Said was the one chief that you couldn't buy or frighten with your witch doctor, so you got rid of him. Tomorrow morning, the witch doctor would have appeared. He'd have scared the daylights out of a weak and superstitious son, Noby. I told you I was fairly good at my work, Governor. And I am. Yes, and then the witch doctor would have taken over everything. The British resident had to be bamboozled for 24 hours to keep him out of the way with a ghost story about a British agent. And there was a gunboat in the harbor in case of trouble. Slight mistake there, Governor. There is a gunboat in the harbor. Yes. It's really worked out beautifully. The Emperor should be pleased. I don't think your White Queen will be very happy, though. I'm the great witch doctor to that frightened mob over there. Say it is dead. And there's a German gunboat in the harbor. Listen, I think I hear something. Whoever's out there, stay back. Whoever's out there, stay back.
Listen to me. He is alive. He's alive.
This is impossible.
We can see him breathe. We don't even think he's badly hurt, but he's still in the cage, unconscious.
Still in the cage? You mean they can't get him out of there?
If he wakes up or they attempt anything nearer, we'll tear him to pieces. The whole crowd over there is nearly crazy, but they don't dare go into the cage.
Well, gentlemen, you should have been more careful. If they do get Saeed out of there alive, you're done for. In fact,
Nobi and the rest of the natives are coming up here now.
Here, miss. Are you talking about the old boy's son?
Nobi, yes. He wants to see the witch doctor.
The witch doctor? This puts you in some slight trouble, Carl. Listen to me, miss. I couldn't get that old buzzard out away from that line, even if I've got to get out of here. You're late now, my dear witch doctor. The natives have surrounded the house. Who's that?
It's Nobi. He's coming down the hall.
I Nobi. Speak white language. Carry salt and sworn. Witch doctor? Much respect. Fall on floor. Go ahead. Play your part, Carl. Play your ruddy part. Get up again. Great medicine man. Father heard. Engaged with lion. You come. Say something, Carl. You can't be a dumb wizard. You come.
My dear Nobi, my friend. The witch doctor can't understand you.
Hey, witch doctor. Not speak everything. Bad witch doctor.
No, it is not that. He does not hear you. He's in another world. See how his eyes close. See how he's saying.
I know this. He saved my father. Or maybe all of you. We will kill all white people here. Witch doctor saved my father from lion. You come.
Nobi, listen to me. You needn't worry. The great witch doctor can save your father.
Go in cage?
No, not go in cage.
Strike with fire?
Yes, that's it. Strike with wizard fire. Open heaven. Flash great light. Narrow scream and die. Father saved. You must not save him. Let him in the night, he will talk. Then the natives will know.
You're not one to say father?
The witch doctor does want to save your father, Nobi. You see that gun under his arm?
Gun? Gun no good. Not use gun. Only wound lion. Lion in pain kill father.
No, that's not like your muskets, Nobi. It's an express gun. It's a magic gun.
Magic gun?
Listen, Nobi. Magic gun save your father with one shot. Just like that. Lion fall over dead. Your father well again. And our friend.
We use gun? Give me gun.
No, you could not use it, Nobi. Witch doctor can use it best. Tell him to use it. Tell him to be sure that he hits the lion.
Look here, Harris. I don't enough of this.
Yes, Nobi. If he wants to hit Nero with that white fire, he can strike the lion dead before you could wink your eyes.
Then do.
You better try it, Carl. And you better not miss him, or you know what'll happen to every white person in this room.
My hand with a shaky like.
Magician with shaky hands? That won't do.
I take your shoulder. You follow. Yala, Ngomba. All come. There is cage by Bella's door. All court over river, bright as day. 1,000 torches, all make light. Now do. Now do.
Yeah, how quiet they get when Nobi raises his hands. They're praying.
So we won't do it. You better. I told you that. They're out of hand now. If you miss, you're no witch doctor. If you had any thought of hitting Saeed instead, just imagine what they do to you.
I can't see it. These torches blind me. You do.
I think the old man's moving. If he stirs, the lion will kill him. You know what that means. That's right. Up with the rifle.
My hands are shaking.
Careful with your sights. It's a point-blank shot.
Allah! Oh, God!
All right, Nobi. The lion is dead. You can go in and carry your father out now.
Lion dead? German magic is great magic.
Yes, Sylvie, it is. But English magic is greater.
English magic better than German magic?
Yes, Snowy. I'll prove it. Turn around. Look out towards the harbor. I stand here. I wave my hand, like this. Nothing up my sleeves. I wouldn't deceive you for the world. I wave my hand towards the gunboat in the bay. The gunboat sails away. English magic, Noby. English magic. And so ends The Lord of the Witch Doctors. Tonight's story of suspense.
Cannabis? Visit drugfreekidscanada.org for more tools to help start the conversation. drugfreekidscanada.org. Chauvin was found guilty of murder and manslaughter after a 3-week trial. Several European companies have threatened to stop using Brazilian agricultural goods if the country's Congress passes a law expanding property rights for illegal land grabbers in the Amazon. Campaigners have warned that the bill would legitimize illegal deforestation. The number of people in India who've died from COVID-19 in the last 24-hour period reached another record, 3,780. Daily infections rose by more than 380,000. The mayor of the Colombian capital, Bogota, has asked the army for help in guarding a number of small detention centers which have come under attack from demonstrators. Days of protests in the city have left at least 19 people dead. British archaeologists say they found the first evidence of a black sailor in the navy of the 16th century. The body of the mariner from Western England and of African ancestry was among the remains of crew members found on the Mary Rose, a Tudor warship wrecked off the coast of Portsmouth. That's the latest BBC News.
The other day they were talking about a black samurai.
Hello, welcome back. You're listening to Newsday on the BBC World Service. Claire McDonald and Lauren.
It was a 12th century.
How old you are, but let's connect with Amanda, who's calling us from Melbourne, Australia. Amanda, welcome to the show.
A long time ago. They keep saying, "Oh, slavery brought you here."
I'm just heading out at just after 3:30 in the afternoon to pick my children up from school. And I have been cleaning out my carport. That's not really exciting, but I figure...
How much food do you
In fact, when Mrs. Davis, my landlady...
It's time to get rid of it.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you decided to, I guess, call in and share the story, which I love that you did. How is it that you started listening to this show? Because I don't know how often we come up in conversation with most Australians.
Well, I'm married to one of you guys, not particularly you personally, but a rather diehard Canucks fan, so you don't disturb him when he's watching a live game on TV. And then he just has it streamed, and we play it on our radio all the time, pretty much.
Oh, love it. And what is your husband's name?
James.
James, and sorry.
Right the third. Do you like that?
Oh, that's. I love it.
Yeah, I'm from Melbourne. He's from Sydney, and they all said, "Oh, isn't that nice, Melbourne and Sydney?" But I said, "No, not that Sydney. Sydney, Vancouver Island, Sydney."
That's right. Okay, so I was going to ask. You said Canucks fan, so I take it he's from the Lower Mainland. He's from the islands, so we got that confirmed. Well, yeah. I think that's just lovely, and I have to apologize because James, if you watched that game earlier, not exactly a game that he would have been too happy about.
Yeah, we usually hear the effect because either something gets slammed down or it's like he's talking to them, but I have to break it to them that the players actually can't hear him.
Oh, I love that. Hey, Amanda, appreciate you giving us a call here. I love it. And thank you for listening from all the way in Australia. I think that is just wonderful. So thank you so much for that.
Government
is potentially not going to be able to help you get your child back.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because obviously the state government has a very big role in this as well. These parents have come down to Abuja to demonstrate outside the federal parliament. Why is that? Do you think that they're not getting the help from state? And if not, do they have any chance or any hopes of taking it to Abuja?
I think for them at this point, they want the federal government to step in, because they do feel that the state governments, there's different news coming out. There's news that has been coming out that potentially the state government is not going to negotiate. The kidnappers have been sending messages. We've heard some news that they were demanding ransom. I think the ransom that I heard was 100 million. We're also, requesting for motorbikes and things like that. And so for a lot of the parents who've been trying, some of them have been trying to collect and donate money. We've heard so many different kind of news, but what you haven't heard is the government coming out and saying, this is how we're going to support the parents.
So for $30,
we're going to go out there and ensure that we can get them back.
For $30, you can put an air tag on that bike. And the batteries run, what, a year or two or something? And every iPhone in Africa will be looking for the damn thing. You guys have no creativity at all.
That some have come down quite hard, saying absolutely no way do you negotiate. Others seem to be intimately involved, although I think they deny it in most cases, don't they? In negotiations with them. Exactly. Has the federal government made a statement about what should be done, or is it still basically just done piecemeal, depending on where you are?
So really the story of insecurity in Nigeria is really rather heartbreaking, because, this kidnappings, before we started seeing a high number of it in schools, well, we've been seeing a high number of it in schools, but the frequency that it's been happening this year alone, it's definitely a serious cause for concern. But in general, kidnapping has also increased in Nigeria. So what we're seeing is the same level of insecurity that we're seeing in other parts of the country. This has been a big conversation. If you remember, the security chiefs resigned, and then the government made them ambassadors, and new ones were put in place, and there was a lot of promises that were made. Meetings have been held with this security chiefs. We've heard the government sometimes, depending on the news article you're reading, saying that we will do something, we will go out there and address the situation. But you haven't seen really concrete statements of how and when and how the entire security architecture in Nigeria is going to address this issue.
Obviously, Bookie, there are no simple answers, but what do you think would actually work? Something that the central government or even state government should do? Because you kind of think, increase security. But actually, that's easier said than done, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's various things that could be done. One thing that has been very to all of us in Nigeria is being able to actually identify who's doing what. That has been the biggest thing that everyone has been asking. Once you read the news article, you ask the government. One will say it's Boko Haram, another will say it's bandits, others will say it's criminal elements, others will say, it's different people. But for us to even know who are the people who are doing this, who's investigating, which arm of the security architecture, are you talking about? Are you talking about the military? Are you talking about the police? Are you talking about the paramilitary, civil defense? Who really is in charge of ensuring and addressing this role? What is the role of the state government? What is the role of the federal government? All this clarity. How much are we investing? For the schools in particular, which all of us are involved, a lot of us are involved in, is the Safe Schools Declaration. From the beginning of the kidnappings, and there was promises of investments, of ensuring that schools are safe, of putting in early warning systems, of addressing how communities
and you've been talking about this for a while, and none of it has done. And I guess it's got to come from the top, doesn't it? Bookie, many thanks indeed. Bookie Williams from Education as a Vaccine, talking on with the backgrounds. I mean, she's in Abuja, and in the background, the parents and families of some of those abducted students are demonstrating they're trying to get their case taken seriously at the centre.
You're listening listening to Newsday on the BBC World Service. Lawrence and Claire with you. Thanks for joining us. African neighbours Kenya and Tanzania have experienced a frosty relationship in recent years, with political clashes over trade, the movement of people and COVID. But there are signs of a new relationship developing following Tanzania's new president, Samia Suluhu's first trip to Kenya for 2-day talks with her counterpart, Uhuru Kenyatta. Among the deals, apparently the building of a pipeline between the port cities of Dar es Salaam and Mombasa. Let's speak to the BBC's Ferdinand Omondi, who's in Nairobi. Ferdinand, I mean, this seems like a new dawn of relations between the two countries. Is that how it's being read there?
Yes, that's certainly how it's being read, especially here in Kenya, where over the past 5 years under President Magufuli, the relationship wasn't exactly very good. Kenya has had various tiffs with the Tanzania government. I remember a few years ago, President Magufuli's government banning about 6,000 chicks belonging to Kenya, and also auctioning 1,000 cattle which had crossed over into Tanzania on account of trespass. And also, even during the management of COVID-19, Tanzania had this huge denialism under President Magufuli. Kenya was trying to make restrictions, and any restrictions that Kenya put in place to protect its citizens was met by a tit-for-tat reaction. So this is sort of a reset to try and get things back to what you'd call normal and also enhance those relations, as President Samia Suluhu and Uhuru Kenyatta said.
And of course, she was President Magufuli's deputy. She's come in. I mean, he had the nickname of the bulldozer, didn't he, for how he went about his business. She's a very different proposition. So let's talk about what was agreed, what was on the table, starting with this oil pipeline. Have they agreed this now?
Yes, they did. They said they have already signed the deal. So what is to happen now is that now the President Samia will go back to the country, and the two governments are now set about coordinating how to build that huge pipeline from the ports of Dar es Salaam to here at Mombasa, which they said will improve business as well as help reduce the cost of power in the country, the two countries.
Okay. They've done away with unfair trade tariffs as well, haven't they?
Yes, they did. They said that they haven't, but they said they will first of all meet. But there is a general agreement that there is need to remove those trade tariffs which interfere with the smooth business as well as unfair business practices. As I mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of tit-for-tatism, if I may say that, and also a lot of business, especially Tanzania coming to Kenya, and even Kenyans working in Tanzania, that was very difficult getting trade tariffs and business and work permits, and both seem to be very cordial in the discussion, saying that they need those to be removed so that trade can improve. Kenya has more than $19 billion worth of businesses invested in Tanzania. Tanzania has a bit much less, and President Samia Suluhu said that now they will come in full force to increase the volume of trade also here in Kenya.
It absolutely makes sense, doesn't it, really, with those kind of figures bandaged around, that both countries kind of work together in a sort of mutually beneficial way. And the other thing that's been unveiled is improving road, rail, air and sea transport as well, which means sort of upgrading existing road networks, for example, and reviving dead ones. Tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, in the early days, when the East African community was the East African community, these three countries even had a common shilling. But obviously, Tanzania was a bit socialist, Kenya was a fledgling democracy, Uganda was turning into a dictatorship under Idi Amin. So it never really worked. They even had a joint airline which crashed. So right now, they're saying that a lot of these things need to be brought back or at least smoothened. Some of the roads heading into Tanzania from Kenya will be repaired. They didn't disclose what they're going to work. It was airline and rail, but earlier on there had been an idea of having a train system from Kenya to Uganda all the way to Rwanda, perhaps Tanzania. Maybe they will see a way to revive it. And most importantly right now is the Lake Victoria movement. There was a boat or a ferry that used to ferry people across the three countries that share the lake, Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. That died, and the president was specific that needed to be revived to ease movement of goods and services across the three regions. So lots in the pipeline. Some have been signed, some have not been signed, but there's a general agreement that these need to move forward.
You have a pipeline in the pipeline.
Thank you for the update. Always good to chat to you, Ferdinand. BBC's Ferdinand Omondi talking to us from Nairobi.
It's 1:45 now. Time to get a lot of sport with James Craig. Hello, James.
Hello there, Lawrence. Yeah, the glitziest party in European football can welcome a new which is true. I'm the oldest one here right now. I bought a bed. I bought a new bed over the weekend, and I needed a new bed forever. And I've had the means to get a new bed, but I've just not. Because I'm so frugal these days, because I'm so scared of running out of money, because this is Vancouver, where it's just like anything can turn on a dime. Literally. It's true. Yeah, so I actually ended up buying a new bed, because my mattress that I have now is completely worn out. I don't even have a bed frame anymore, because the last place I lived in was a typical Vancouver apartment where the bed wouldn't fit in the little tiny room that I was in. Oh, so I had to take the frame apart. So then it's just a mattress on top of a box spring, and now the mattress is worn out. And now that sleep is at a premium for me because of my new shift, I've decided, now's the time to get a bed. So I got a good one. Well done. That's a smart investment, because really what you're investing in is yourself. You got to get good, restful sleep. Got to get that beauty sleep, as they say. So well done. Congratulations to you both. My good news is something far, far, far more exciting. Good news is that I get to work tonight with you guys. I think that's worth celebrating, right? I get to be here and just, celebrate and have some fun. Keep your good news coming at 877-399-9898. We'll continue to celebrate all things that are going on in your life worth knowing and celebrating with everybody else. That's next. It's here, and it's on the shift.
We're here for the night owls.
The greatest argument of why this simply doesn't hold anymore.
Well, there was a time when we thought we could pollute our way to wealth. We could extract in it, pave over, etc. We would have, and we thought that was the answer. If we've learned anything from these three planetary crises, it is that is certainly not the answer, and it's definitely not the answer to the SDGs. Certainly, COVID has told us and given us a very rude awakening that if you push nature into a corner, if you illegally trade species, if you extract and cut down tropical forests, of zoonosis, 75% of new diseases are zoonotic in nature. Now, COVID-19 is particularly efficient. So COVID-19 is here with us now and has exposed to us.
Where do the other 25% come from?
But climate change is a lot worse. Biodiversity loss is a lot worse. So
in the Champions League. So Mauricio Pochettino just arrived. He's rebuilding a team. He's been working with this team for a few weeks only. So he's going to have the whole summer to get prepared and try next year again to win this Champions League. But for now, yes, you still have the end of the Liga and the semi-final of the Coupe de France, and it's going to come very, very quickly. Actually, they have to be focused and to forget this, of course, big disappointment from getting knocked out yesterday night.
What's the mood like in France? Because we see quite often here in the UK when a team gets knocked out, having been close, in a semi-final stage or something, the newspapers are very critical. What are the newspapers and the media? What were the pundits saying on French TV, for example, last night? Was it an air of disappointment? Was it anger? Was it an acceptance that City was simply too good? What's it like, Sarah?
It's a bit of a mix of everything, I think. The pundits yesterday, of course, everybody yesterday night and this morning agreed to say it's a big disappointment. Yesterday night we were all a bit sad.
Is it Wednesday in China?
In-depth analysis of the day's big stories, as well as the most comprehensive business of the day. The Beijing Hour, your very own window to China and the rest of the world.
Turning to culture and entertainment, a series of activities are being held at the Ming Dynasty-era Yuyuan Garden in Shanghai to celebrate the Labor Day holiday. They include an exhibition featuring hundreds of scale models and miniatures of Shanghai landmarks covering a period of 400 years. Zhang Yue takes a look.
Watching the battle between foreign invaders at the city's northern gate, taking a picture of a train departing from the 110-year-old Shanghai railway station, or taking a bird's view of the Xujiahui Cathedral, or watching a film inside the Cathay Theater in the 1930s. Everything above is in a mini world. Many of the historical structures here, including Shikumen houses and
for Life campaign group, and the man behind the idea is Jim Baxter. Now, he was very happy with the result when I spoke to him a little earlier.
So the turnout was amazing. It was the second highest turnout ever for our city, Lubbock, in a non-presidential year. And we had 35,000 voters turn out. And the results were 62.5% for the ordinance to ban abortion in Lubbock and 37.5% against.
So what happens now? I understand that this needs to be recognized by the Secretary of State and so on. But assuming that those results are confirmed and it goes ahead, is there an immediate change, or is this just a symbolic thing that you're after?
Yeah, there is an immediate change. So immediately upon the finalization of the vote, abortion is banned in Lubbock, Texas.
Just like that. And the ban that you're after is, I mean, within the descriptions of these things, is pretty hardcore. So it's banned in cases of rape and incest as well. You're making it as blanket as you can.
Yes, sir, absolutely. We don't believe that a baby should be punished for the sins of the father.
Right, okay, so that's your answer against rape and incest. You don't consider the weight, or maybe you do consider, but you don't give weight to the situation of the mother in that case.
Well, we do give weight to the situation of the mother, and there's much care to be given to the mother in a horrific situation where she's raped. You know, we are talking about less than 1% of cases, but in those situations, we should love the mother, and the father, frankly, should be executed for his crimes.
Give us an idea, if you would, about sort of how many people will this affect.
You want the child to be raised by a mother that will, no matter what, resent the child.
In the city,
and
how many interventions, operations, abortions do they carry out?
That won't produce more rapists,
which is part of why we started this petition drive and vote for this ordinance. They have not done any abortions in Lubbock for 8 years. So the prior 8 years, anybody who wanted an abortion had to drive to Dallas for an abortion.
Right.
And they were trying to change that. And so we don't really have a good concept of what numbers they might be doing, but typical abortion clinic will kill about 1,000 babies in a year.
But this doesn't stop. Your ordinance is just about the town. So women in need of help can still go, if they see fit, to neighboring towns, can they?
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, someone who wants to murder their baby could still go to a nearby city to do so, but we're not going to let that happen in our jurisdiction.
Right, okay. Now, you've won the vote, it seems, with arguments like that. I mean, I've got to say, a woman is going to be in distress if she's in this situation, and you're using language like murder and so on. Is that the language that you used in the campaign as well?
It is, yeah. You know, the people of Lubbock wanted to ban abortion because we don't want to see babies have their arms and legs chopped off in our city. So, yeah, we're talking about murder, and it's not a procedure that's a health procedure. It's not anything like that. This is about babies being chopped in pieces, and so we're not going to allow that in our city.
And I don't mean to be ironic about this. You think you're doing them a kindness. You're giving them
absolutely.
You're giving them time to think and reconsider.
Yes, absolutely.
But the language that you're using, Jim, I've got to say, I find quite shocking. If you're trying to sympathize with someone and you're talking about murdering and dismembering, it's not helpful. Do you talk like that because you feel you have to? You have no other choice?
Well, that's what it is. I mean, if we're going to be truthful about it, that's what abortion is. Abortion is not this nice, kind thing to eliminate a problem. Abortion is the killing of a baby. And if we don't see that, we'll never understand how heinous it is.
Jim, you obviously feel very deeply about this, but isn't it frustrating that even at the moment of your victory, the women who you're trying to control, if I can put it that way, or whose actions you're trying to limit, they just get in the car and they do what they were going to do anyway, but somewhere else? What kind of a victory is that for you?
It is frustrating that some might do that. However, I do believe that many will reconsider their decision when they see that the law here in Lubbock is not allowing them to murder a baby for good reason. And, you know, as they consider having to travel for it, they may be able to look at an ultrasound at a pregnancy center here in town and see the baby's hands and feet and see the baby's heartbeat and see the baby move on the ultrasound screen and say, that's not a clump of tissue. That's not just a pile of cells like we're told it is. That's a little baby in me. And they may change their mind before they travel on to kill the baby in Dallas.
Sure, but they can feel that anyway. They don't need to see it on a screen. They know what's going through. They're more aware than you are, if you don't mind me saying, of the situation that they're in.
I'm going to challenge you on that one. I think there's a lot of emotion involved in that moment, especially if they don't want to be pregnant, and they're not thinking through all the ramifications of what their actions might be. And
the reason they don't want to be pregnant is because they don't want to be pregnant. Right, you're
Jim Baxter, leader of the West Texas for Life campaign group, the man behind the Sanctuary for the Unborn idea, which has had the voters nod in Lubbock, Texas.
You just boxed off to one side because everybody just... No, you know what's happening here.
Newsday, BBC World Service. Today sees the start of the Africa Tech Week Conference, the biggest gathering of tech leaders and digital entrepreneurs the continent has ever seen. And the focal point of the gathering online.
So the BBC has just done the whole world a favor. Don't go
One
to
of the
this
event's
town.
key speakers is Lindiwe Matlali, CEO and founder of Africa Tech Geeks, and her mission is to eliminate the barriers faced by disadvantaged communities in pursuing science, technology, engineering, and maths. So, how do you do that? I'm delighted to say she joins us now. Welcome to Newsday. I mean, we know that the impact of the pandemic on education has...
The BBC guy, I forgot his name, said something just as a figure of speech. If you're trying to sympathize with somebody or get sympathy or whatever to that cause, in other words, sympathizing to the pregnant mother considering an abortion, and then the first level of analytical thought says he's not. He's sympathizing with the baby. No, he's not. He's sympathizing with himself, which is self-worship, which is also titled, proper name, Satanism. There's no Satan devil figure. It's Satanism. It's not devil worship. It's worship of the self. It makes him uncomfortable that, and remember the word reconsider. It makes him uncomfortable that people do this. So it's not allowed here where he is. And when he's saying, well, maybe they'll reconsider. Yeah, living in Lubbock or whatever it's called. It's not that they'll reconsider having an abortion. They'll reconsider living in our city. The complete sociopathy. And it's also when I say Satanism, Satanism is the one religion that requires you to get consent to do anything. So it's actually a perversion of the religion of Satanism. It's sociopathy, complete lack of empathy.
Still have those challenges, but we were still able, like last year, for example, to reach over.
And I was trying to talk over the speakers there, which doesn't work. The father should be murdered. The mother should be forced to raise the child, which she will almost almost inherently or subconsciously will resent that child. So the father's going to grow up being resented by his mother, no father, and you think that will create less rapists? You're assigning 20 years of work to her because you feel uncomfortable.
The inequality is, and there's a lot of work that specifically our government.
And the other thing, this is about legal abortions. This is something that is going to happen anyway. It's like the mother rabbit eating its young or whatever. It's going to happen anyway, but it'll happen in some unsterile, dirty fucking place where probably everybody will get an infection and die. It's not about, oh, it won't happen if it's illegal. Just like prostitution doesn't happen because it's illegal, and drugs don't happen because it's illegal, right?
Put it in your phone now. 416-398-2500.
And she's one of the key speakers.
So that guy broadcast to the world that he's a sociopath, and 2/3 of that city is a sociopath, and he thinks he's like, yes, we made it to the BBC. BBC is like, we need to tell the whole world 2/3 of an entire city is fucking psychopaths.
Listening to News 24.
Now, do I want to hear the local Canadian press thing? Here's the deal.
News Radio 640 Toronto. I'm pleased to announce that our show has been moved forward to 7 p.m. Saturday nights. Please spend an hour with us and learn more about money. Managing money is simple, but it's not easy.
Money guy.
A steady hand.
I thought it was the employment.
Your order, because there are people waiting behind you.
Oh, yeah, sorry. The next window. Yeah, right over there. Thank you.
Looking for tips on how to talk with your teens about cannabis? Visit drugfreekidscanada.org for more tools to help start the conversation.
According to this commercial, their target market is a parent.
We believe in Greater Toronto. This is CFNJ
Their target market is a parent who is so fucking high, they're stupid.
Entertainment Company.
That's who they're advertising to. No, they're not. They're advertising to make their donors feel better.
Another high-ranking member of the Canadian military has been removed from his role following allegations of misconduct. Reporter Mike Couture has more in this Global News exclusive.
A rising star in the Canadian military, Raphael Gay, now Lieutenant Colonel, has since been promoted to Commandant of the Canadian Forces School of Military Intelligence. But Global News has learned Gay was temporarily reassigned last week and is under investigation for alleged misconduct. The Department of National Defense wouldn't confirm whether the allegations are sexual in nature, but said in a statement, quote, allegations were brought forward by a single third-party complainant and referred to different incidents that could be possible breaches of conduct. Mike Couture, Global News, Ottawa.
An Alberta woman in her 50s has died from a rare blood clotting disorder linked to the AstraZeneca vaccine. Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health confirming the woman died from VITT and had received the shot. It's the second in Canada after a woman in Quebec, also in her 50s, passed away last.
So if this kills people that are older, why do you keep saying the only older people should have it?
So he urged G7 foreign ministers meeting in London to back his plans for a fund to provide vaccines and other medical supplies to the developing world over the next 2 years.
Recommendation put forward by NASA yesterday that Pfizer and Moderna's COVID-19 vaccines are preferred over AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson.
Trudeau says every available vaccine in our country has been approved by Health Canada as being both safe and effective.
Bottom line is, kill you 9 years faster on average. You live 9 years longer on average.
Chinese state-run media says the fishing moratorium is part of Beijing's efforts to promote sustainable fisheries. The ban started on the 1st of May and runs until mid-August. Howard Johnson in Manila has more.
The statement by a government-backed military task force is just the latest in a now 2-month-long spat between Manila and Beijing over territorial rights in the South China Sea. This fishing ban does not apply to our fishermen, read the statement, adding, our fisherfolk are encouraged to go out and fish in our waters. It comes after the Foreign Secretary of the Philippines, Teodoro Locsin Jr., apologized to his Chinese counterpart yesterday after he tweeted an expletive word demanding that China removed its fishing boats from Philippine economic waters.
Australia's controversial decision to ban travel from India is being challenged in a federal court in Sydney. More details from Ben Lowings.
Lawyers have brought the case on behalf of Gary Newman, a 73-year-old man from Melbourne. He travelled to India in March last year and has since been unable to return to Australia. Australia's Health Minister Greg Hunt issued an emergency biosecurity declaration last week that made it a criminal offence for Australian citizens to travel home from India. The temporary precaution comes amidst a surge in coronavirus infections in South Asia.
India has seen another record number of daily deaths from coronavirus. Official figures show that 3,780 people lost their lives in the latest 24-hour period. Daily infections rose by more than 380,000. The BJP government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi is still resisting a national lockdown. World news from the BBC. A pharmaceutical company in Indonesia is facing a lawsuit for allegedly washing and reselling used COVID nasal swab test kits. Several employees of the state-owned firm Kimia Pharma have been arrested. Police say up to 9,000 passengers at an airport in Medan may have been tested with the reused swab sticks. Syrian state media says an Israeli air raid in the northwest of the country has killed 1 person and injured 6 others. Quoting a military source, Sana news agency said the country's air defences had intercepted Israeli missiles near the coastal city of Latakia. It suggested the target of the attack could have been a plastics factory. There's been no independent confirmation. With 79 days to go before the opening of the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, an event to test the half marathon has been held in the Japanese city of Sapporo. The president of World Athletics governing body, Sebastian Coe, told a news conference countermeasures needed to mitigate against coronavirus risk were clearly in place. The French President, Emmanuel Macron, will lay a wreath at the tomb of Napoleon Bonaparte today and give a speech marking the 200th anniversary of his death. From Paris, here's Lucy Williamson.
It's a brave politician who leads commemorations for France's last dictator, but President Macron is stepping up to mark the anniversary of Napoleon's death with a speech that the Élysée says will avoid blissful hagiography, denial, or repentance. Divisions over Napoleon's legacy have grown over the past 2 decades, particularly over his decision to reinstate slavery in the Caribbean and Indian Ocean after it had been abolished by the French Revolution. Mr. Macron's address, the Élysée says, will argue that the French Republic built on the best of his achievements and separated itself from the worst.
Lucy Williamson reporting. BBC News.
Thank you for the latest news update. Hello, welcome back. You are listening to Newsday on the BBC World Service. Lawrence Pollard and Claire. Based on what they say is a juror who wasn't completely
their respective birthdays. Keep us in the know, whatever you want to celebrate.
Really in your place.
The Beijing Hour. The Beijing Hour. The Beijing Hour brings you an hour.
Some fascinating people share their stories.
China is from sports and entertainment, in-depth analysis of the day's big stories, as well as the most comprehensive business of the day. The Beijing Hour, your very own window to China and the rest of the world.
Today, provide you with in-depth news and expert analysis, telling the true story and the figure. Bring you the news you want to know.
It's all bumper.
Revealed her awards for enterprise. This is the award she gives to multiple businesses a year that have done incredible work for the United Kingdom, whether they have sold far and wide, benefited the people of the UK, and opened people's minds, maybe even. That applies, all 3 of those apply to this product. So why don't I set the mood here? Let's play some royal music, some nice classical tunes, and I shall decree the winning company. Her Majesty has awarded the UK's biggest sexual wellness brand the Queen's Award for Enterprise. Love Honey has been recognized with the highest accolade for business success following continuous growth in overseas sales over the last 6 years. Overall, Love Honey has seen its business expand from £12 million up to £56 million. The sex toy company can now use the Queen's Award emblem on its wide range of vibrators, lingerie, and other stuff. Yes, you can now buy sexual wellness toys that have the Queen of England's seal of approval on them.
Just like on the Windsor Salt, right?
Excellent.
Oh boy,
or whatever the fuck it is.
I don't even know how I feel about this one. This one is it's real. It is. Yep. Here's the thing. I never would have guessed in a million years, Ryan, and that if you told me, hey, one day in your career, you're going to talk about a story where the Queen of England officially awards a sex store company, and now it's going to have branded Queen items and paraphernalia. That is that's the world we live in. All right, hey,
yeah,
that's
and do you want to know something even crazier? This isn't the first time this company has been given this award. They won it in 2016 too. So clearly that the seal is helping them, and also the pandemic and everybody being stuck at home. I mean, I get it. But their Love Honey's chief commercial officer, Debbie Bond, said in an official statement,
oh dear, you can put those webcams.
Her Majesty has been a wonderful supporter of Love Honey.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I don't want to have that mental image, but it's happening.
Well, I appreciate the Queen not like giving it to brands that are actually doing well. 56 million pounds in growth.
Fair enough.
And sales. Like, this is a business doing well. It's British and it's good for their economy. So it's awesome that the Queen can celebrate it that way. I just don't think that a Justin Trudeau seal of approval would work very well anywhere in Canada. So I think we should just stick with the Queen. Yeah, we'll stick with the Queen on that one.
Yes, please. Yep.
Yeah. So for the first time in my life, I have a dog. Kinda. I don't do any of the hard work. I just pet it and love it. And that is my partner Laura's new dog, a brand new golden retriever named Cora. Cora is the most amazing thing ever. I have said it many times that I love this dog. The second I laid eyes upon her, I said to Laura, I will do anything for this dog. She's now 9 weeks, and she is amazing, but she poops and pees everywhere. And I think it's because I'm the one that doesn't discipline her. Every time she sees me, she runs and just pees everywhere because she's excited. And I think it's adorable. It doesn't bother me too much. People have to clean it up. They really can't stand it, and that's fine. But
Didn't this guy have a roommate yesterday? Now he's got a partner. Different guy.
But
I swear it's the same guy.
First scheduled trip abroad since taking office. Crucially, Mr. Modi from India and Mr. Moon from South Korea are also due to take part in that G7 summit, even though those two countries aren't G7 members. And I think this is an example, isn't it, of Britain's pivot towards Asia, and also of Mr. Biden's plan to try to restore friendships and alliances with countries all around the world, which he felt had been under pressure during the Trump administration.
Well, look forward to talking to you when the big boys and girls meet the G7 a little bit later. That was Duncan Bartlett. Duncan's editor of Asian Affairs magazine.
Newsday BBC World Service. Let's go to Spain now, where the centre-right People's Party has made major gains in Tuesday's vote in the Madrid Regional Assembly. We're actually going to be bringing you that story shortly. We're just having difficulties connecting, but we're going to bring you this first of all. In the US, the lawyers representing the former police officer Derek Chauvin are requesting
catching his attention.
Yeah, it looks like there's one here in the grass.
Small plastic bags full of
someone's dog poop.
Havas has tried wrapping his head around the logic.
It seems kind of ridiculous to go to the trouble of putting your dog's poop in a bag and then to turn around and undo all that good work by throwing it on the path.
And it's not for lack of disposal options.
A lot of these bags are within sight of these garbage cans.
So Havas decided it was his duty to do something.
That got me started.
A printout, a little glue, and this waste warrior was ready to mark his own territory.
So it says, really? WTF dog walkers. Don't be a jerk. Take your blank to the garbage can located nearby.
Havas now carries his flags on his walks, placing them on top of every bag he finds.
So that's the idea, is to put it in people's minds that it's really not the kind of thing you should do.
He took it a step further, getting the word out on social media, saying, I did this a few days ago and it seems to have struck a chord. Do you want to join? Now his flags are a hot commodity.
I've got requests from all over Vancouver, from across Canada, from the UK, some in the States, Florida. So, you know, it's an idea that really seems to have caught on.
So far, the community's response has been largely positive.
What's that? Okay.
and then a supporter.
And while there are fines in place if someone is caught leaving the waste behind, it's rare anyone is held accountable. And so Hovas plans to keep patrolling, a doo-doo do-gooder on a mission.
Hopefully it'll get to a point where those flags won't be needed anymore. That would be nice.
Kylie Stanton,
It's not for leaving the crap, it's for throwing garbage.
Excellent.
They didn't leave the crap. They then threw garbage.
Excellent. I love this story, and great on Kylie for dropping all the puns that she could find there. Gooder is just an incredible title to bestow upon anyone.
That was something that we were talking about at the time of the trial. So how valid is raising that now?
Walking your dog, and you have the bag. Why aren't you bringing the bag with you to get rid of it at a garbage can?
It's so strange because if you just left it, at least it could go naturally, which it shouldn't. Right. You should just throw it out. But
see what mental illness?
Why would you just?
What mental illness is that?
It's biodegradable. It's probably
it's
not.
obsession with scat.
I don't know. It makes no sense. So I'm glad somebody's doing something about it. And
whatever the fuck
shout out. So maybe this will start a global movement now. We had someone from Australia earlier in the show. So now I'm imagining you have to deal with that plus spiders. So why not have the flags?
No, that's different.
Stop this.
You picked up the poop, you were walking, you saw the spider, and you threw it.
Amanda,
that's what happened.
Thank you for calling. If you're listening still, this is on you now. This is the responsibility that you have signed
in Canada.
Yep.
Share it with the people down under. So, a great story. Love it. Let's do this fun one here. Actually, let's do a sad one. We'll end on a fun one. Another story in BC, except this one has a little bit of a different tone. I remember this day very well because I was anchoring when this happened. It was a bittersweet day in Kamloops as the snowbirds made their very first flight in the city since the tragic crash in 2020.
The snowbirds touched down in Kamloops for a quick refueling stop on their way out to CFB Comox. The stop comes nearly a year after the May 2020 crash that took the life of Public Affairs Officer Captain Jennifer Casey and injured pilot Captain Richard McDougall. The accident was later determined to have been caused by a bird strike. The entire
anytime they need a random dick,
they need operational pause after that crash. They are now training for their summer show season, which has a number of tentative dates in Canada and the U.S.
There's nowhere anyone's allowed to gather.
We wanted to show appreciation for what the city and the population has done for us last year.
Like not suing.
It is hard for the team to go back. I'm not gonna hide it.
You guys are fucking useless and stupid.
Are having a difficult
You're both.
time,
You're useless and stupid.
I think it's
which makes you ineffectual.
To show the population that we appreciate.
I hope you
really
smash in the side of something bigger next time.
Last year.
The snowbirds say they didn't publicize their visit to Kamloops in advance because they didn't want to attract a crowd and endanger people's health during the pandemic.
Rinses away.
I think it's amazing that they are back in the air. I mean, they need new planes, and they
remember
need
that
new
flight
resources,
was to convince
but no matter
us
what, the snowbirds
that
is something I think should always be around. It's a unique plane. I mean, many countries have this, but there's something really amazing about the snowbirds, and it's a very personal thing for me too. Like my grandfather really raised me talking about military history and I always had a fascination with airplanes.
And then
in
they
fact,
tried to change her name. For a week they called her Cobra. Then they tried to change her name.
But then I found out I'm really bad at math, so I stopped that.
They brought back one body.
I built them out of Lego instead.
Partial remains.
And
they rushed the funeral
it's beautiful
service.
That they're back up, and I think that interview there is great.
Get it out of our minds
that's
fast.
the reason they're still in the air after what happened.
3,000 plus miles deep, 3 kilometers plus deep.
Across Canada and stunt pilots around the world, really.
Chomo's getting
it's
angry.
a dangerous job. And
Chomo is anti-military. Don't forget that. He's anti-drug and anti-military.
They fly for us to entertain us, and because they love it.
That makes you
useless. So it's amazing that they're back, so they can share that incredible experience again. And I truly hope that soon I'll be able to go see those amazing planes fly and those amazing pilots do their work. because I just think the skies are better off with them in it, you know?
What?
Well said. Yeah, I mean, obviously snowbirds, when you see them for the first time, chances are you're going to be young, and there's really nothing like it. No matter what kind of an air show you're going to, seeing the maneuvering, the training, the precision, the timing, all of it just.
So remember, 2 days ago, they're going on and on about how they don't understand how anyone could have a problem with fighter jets flying around pretending to bomb your city and stuff, because there's like, what they say to commercials or what is it? You can familiarize yourself with it. It's just like fireworks, blah, 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 blah. They don't understand how like a 5-year-old has a problem. These people have a problem with the kid they adopted having a problem with planes or something. The kid has a problem, not you. Why exactly are you flying these fucking things again?
Of course, a big round of applause to our snowbirds. There is, I think, that mental trauma of getting back into the submarine after something like that.
And flying a destroyer through the Taiwan Strait like retards.
The entire support of our shift head. So thank you for bringing that up. It's a sad story, but I think it's an important one to document here.
You're supposed to disobey an unlawful order.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And those are the stories you might have missed, including a ridiculous one about the Queen and selling sex toys.
All right. Who would have thought, right? Who would have thought? On the other side, we'll connect with Greg Fish. That's next here.
We're here for the night owls and the really early risers. It's The Shift with Shane Hewitt.
They damaged a submarine, they smashed up a helicopter, killed 5 people. What else they did? They're demonstrating what was it, UXO or artillery or some shit, and they're all standing in front of the truck. Well, the CEO said it's okay. Well, you're an idiot, and that's why you're dead. Oh yeah, this shit keeps happening all the time in Canadian forces. People taking shortcuts and doing things their own way. Why is it allowed? Because the people in charge are only concerned with investigations concerning sexual assault. They don't want to. They don't give a fuck about you.
Pedro Sanchez was very much involved in the campaign ahead of this election.
I don't mean they're like pro investigation. Keep it up, Joe. I don't believe they're pro investigation. But that's what they're focused on, is these investigations. They don't give a fuck about what happens to anybody else. Why would they?
Gourmet pizza special. Get a medium gourmet pizza for just $13.99. That's like flying first class when you only paid economy. You're up for...
Oh, and that helicopter.
Results over the last few years.
They took this could be the beginning helicopter in its class and made it fly by wire.
Period for the Popular Party.
Good to talk to you, Guy. Thank you for joining us. Guy Hedgecoe there, our correspondent in the Spanish capital, Madrid.
22 minutes past the hour. James Gregg is here with the sport and the news of that Gulf derby.
Well, we heard, didn't we, for last hour from Sorum and I about Paris Saint-Germain and their exit.
Whoever posts the short videos on their platforms, and they need to try to perfect their mechanism so that people, once find any irregulations or find any violation of the copyrights of other movies or other TV productions, can report them. And the third is to have the movie industry insiders to just to form their own I can't say union, or just a form of organization, so that they can guarantee, what is the best way to protect our rights. These are all the things that they are going to carry out. So it's like from the threefold.
What will happen?
So they didn't mention Africa.
Leukemia, just like the Alibaba stuff.
They didn't mention Africa at all when they were talking about Nigeria and Uganda building this pipeline and all this. They didn't mention China at all. They didn't mention it on the BBC.
consider excessive pollution, excessive climate change measures that companies take. And also, of course, consumers say that they want to buy products from companies that take climate change seriously and are doing their best to try to reduce
plastic
it.
bottles.
So Unilever's putting this to shareholders, their climate action transition plan, today to the shareholders. It's an advisory vote. They basically, if the shareholders say they don't like it, then the government, then the managers can still go ahead and impose it. You know, Unilever is just so big. There are so many ways that it can probably change and improve its climate footprint. Just something as simple as, say, trying to improve the freezers that it gives to or rents to shops to put its ice cream in. If they're old and not particularly well maintained or use too much energy, then that's going to basically increase Unilever's carbon footprint. So something as simple as that, better freezers for ice cream can actually make a very big difference.
Fascinating. Have you worked with the business? Thank you.
No, he's wrong. He's wrong. So those coolers must maintain the temperature no matter what. The fridge in your house, if it kicks out, nobody gives a fuck. That door gets opened, every fucking door. The sliding door, the cooler, whichever. If it's upright, it's even worse because the cold air always falls up. The chest freezers, you can leave the fucking door open. It doesn't matter. It has to be heavy duty and just run and run and run for a long time. Your idea that the old one is not as good doesn't make sense. You're going to be venting R410A or whatever to the environment. Oh, R12 kills chlorofluorocarbons. Or sorry, R12 kills ozone, chlorophore. Hold on a second. R12 is heavier than air. It doesn't float up to the atmosphere. The ozone up there is generated by, has to do with the way the solar wind hits the atmosphere. Ozone at ground level is a major contributor to smog. It's a major component of smog. Ozone at ground level also sinks. What did you solve by banning R12 and bringing out other refrigerants and scrapping these things? And every time they scrap out the old generation of refrigerators, it all gets vented to atmosphere. None of it gets reclaimed. Reclaimed for what purpose? You're not allowed to use it no more. Why would you reclaim it? Right. None of the new shit runs on it. Right. I've seen this like 4 times now. R12, R22, R410A, and then there's a 3R3 something that I never see anymore. R310A, 4, whatever. There's 2 of them.
My son was born,
used to be ammonia.
and so I had a lot to try on. And once I was happy with my results,
all around the world now, you assholes are going to go, yeah, you need to change out your freezers. I want you to throw all that styrofoam and polyurethane and everything in the landfill and burn it and send it to third world countries illegally, deceitfully, surreptitiously, that's the word. So I feel better about my ice cream. What about all the paper used in the packaging? Why is it wrapped in paper?
At least we can give ourselves a pat.
How about the plastic?
Back, although.
How about the plastic? Why don't you do anything useful with the plastic after? How come nobody saves those containers, use them for anything? No, it gets recycled. Yeah, recycled means pre-sorted. That means you washed it and picked which garbage can to put it. That's what recycling means. It has nothing to do with what happens to it after the fact. So in 2019, in the summer, they told us in Toronto, in Ontario, they're not recycling anything anymore. There's nowhere to send it to. It's all going to landfill or incinerators.
Different, but in your perspective, why isn't COVID done with you?
Well, the reason why COVID isn't done with us is because there's still hotspots around the world that are creating
nuclear energy, which is used to run those freezers, isn't counted as carbon.
Work for, but we currently don't know for sure. So the worst thing that we could do is we could go ahead and just, get vaccinated whenever, not get the second shot if we are doing a 2-shot vaccine. Just immediately lower all of the social distancing and all the opening requirements and just say, hey, we're all sick and tired of it, and some of us got our shots, so let's just pretend that the last couple of years never happened and they were just a bad dream, and we'll just move on with our lives and just open everything. Everybody's back to normal, because we're not ready to do that. And there are places in the world where there's still a lot of outbreaks. Like, for example, the situation in India is borderline catastrophic, and there's new variants that are coming out of that. Situation in Turkey
borderline
is not that great. Iran is very dire. Brazil is really in a lot of trouble. So there's definitely a lot of potential for new strains to come back. Now, the interesting thing that we need to keep in mind, and potentially like a ray of hope here, Good News Tuesday, right, is that there is a limit to how much coronaviruses can mutate and still be infectious to humans and dangerous to humans. This is actually what happened with SARS and MERS. They changed and mutated enough to where they weren't really dangerous to us anymore. But we were lucky because those were not outbreaks nearly at the scale that we have now seen with COVID. And we are not exactly
SARS
sure how many of those
SARS just mutated out of existence.
Can happen to this particular strain of COVID.
Went through every animal on the planet.
Infectious to us.
15 years later, reinfects us.
But we really do need to prepare. And
it's one gene different.
We can't just say, okay, some of us got vaccinated.
That's what they told us anyway.
Let's just go ahead and resume life. The other issue is that we really need to consider the kind of damage that we have seen to basically kind of like our way of life over the last year, and what it showed about our societies as a whole and our leadership as a whole. And we need to take this into account. And even if, let's say, the best happens, the variants are kept under control, we realize that, we really kind of are in this together.
It doesn't show the leadership, it shows you guys,
really
individuals.
Care about like borders or politics. Just because you vote a certain way,
insight,
or you have certain
transfer
political
to the other
views,
person.
Doesn't mean
Oh, yeah,
you're
this is
going to be
about you.
spared
No, it's not.
from the disease, or your friends are going to be spared from the disease. And just because it's
the way you live made this happen, and this has made us really insightful into the leadership. Nope, you missed it. And nuclear energy is not counted as carbon cycle.
We vaccinate enough people, we achieve herd immunity. There are going to be still things that we really...
Herd immunity is a theory. It's never been accomplished anywhere. And what it means is if enough people get sick, the other ones that are left won't get sick. Right. So SARS mutated to where it wasn't infectious to humans anymore. Really? Because this is SARS. COVID is SARS. It's one gene different. That's what they told us a year and a half ago, but they keep changing the story.
Cases pre-COVID-19, and it's maybe taught us some incredible lessons. Now, the silver lining to all this, Greg, is that maybe throughout the pandemic, we have picked up on things that will carry with us on a more full-time basis. One of the things might just be wearing masks more commonly. It's already a very regular occurrence in parts of South Asia, East Asia. So maybe that's one thing that we can learn from the pandemic, is that wearing masks more frequently is not the worst thing to do.
Absolutely. I mean, during flu season, if you feel sick, you should absolutely wear a mask. If you don't feel if you feel a little under the weather, you should absolutely wear a mask. If you go to Asia at any point, you'll see a lot of people wearing masks. And actually, when I travel, I like to have a mask on the plane, and that saved me from a couple of really nasty colds, especially during busy seasons. And this was, years before the pandemic. So definitely recommend that. But the more fundamental things is that when
what are colds?
We have elections coming up in the United States and in Canada in the next few years. And what we need to do when we approach these elections is we're going to need to demand
you've missed the point.
From our leaders. So much damage.
This guy sees the value of everything, the cost of everything, value of nothing. Completely missed it. This is an opportunity to politic. You're a fucking idiot. You saw all this, but you still think this is about politics. You're a fucking idiot.
Global civilization. And instead we had a lot of fragmented responses that were in no small part driven by populist leaders who decided that the virus is not the problem. The problem is that people would look at them and say, well, the virus happened on your watch, therefore it's a personal failing of yours that we have a virus. And they treated it this way instead of, this is a crisis that I have to solve. They treat it as, this is an insult to me, and these people better stop dying, getting sick, and making me look bad. And I know I don't want to actually help anything or help anyone. I just want this to go away, and this never works. We have, especially in the English-speaking West, we have a huge problem with people in the media who have never met a problem that they can't scream partisan slogans at and make it go away. And now that they have done that, now that they have come up with a problem that you can't just, yell a slogan at, they decided they're just going to keep shouting slogans. And in doing so, they have undermined a lot of potentially positive responses. They prolonged the pandemic. They're increasing vaccine hesitancy, which means there's more room for variants and there's more room.
We've already proven it's not a thing.
More room for more restrictions and for the pandemic to.
No, because vaccines we've already found mathematically you can't vaccinate fast enough, and they don't work on variants. So no, that's not true. And if you're vaccinated, you can still pass on the virus asymptomatically. Yes, you will. You'll shed it. Oh, dear.
As human beings, and we are completely we're done with you, because they will whine about cancel culture and it really
the vaccine hesitancy, false scarcity. They kept presenting this false scarcity. Then they started dumping vaccines on they're using the term racialized. So 18% of the population is black, and 27% of the cases of COVID-19 were black people. Right. So they kept spitting at us, like in this case with words, telling us it's our fault. We're that. We're vaccine hesitant. Okay. No, we've now seen that the black people keep asking for the fucking vaccines and not getting them. By the way, life expectancies for our race are a lot lower than yours. So shouldn't it be based on a percentage of life expectancy? How come every video game it's percentage? It's not an absolute number of years, it's a percentage, right? Your health points.
We don't need to wear masks, and masks make you sicker, and if you die from COVID, then you were weak anyway. And we now have to socialize with these people.
You're inhaling particles into your lungs. There's no way to remove them, especially if you won't smoke weed. If you don't smoke cigarettes and you don't smoke weed, you'll never get it out.
We're going to need to start holding our leaders to account. We're going to need to start holding our media figures to account. We're going to need to hold our friends and neighbors to account and say there are consequences for acting like you are not part of a society, like the rules of society don't apply to you, and you just get to hate everyone and be a loudmouth and undermine others and undermine efforts to get over a crisis because you think you're the protagonist of the universe. Like these are huge things that we need to address, because what if the next pandemic is worse? This is not going to be the last. This is far from the first pandemic. This is not going to be the last. As we are trying to get over this pandemic, we need to be thinking what's going to happen next time. How bad could next time be, and how do we actually weather next time without the disruptions that we saw, without the social upheaval that we saw, without people actively undermining our response to this pandemic at every turn. These are scary things, and I don't think they're not getting a lot of discussion. And this is why when you ask people in the United States and get how they feel about kind of returning back to normal after their vaccinations, half of them will say, not great. I still feel pretty anxious. I still feel like, things are not that great. And it's very tempting to dismiss them. Oh, you're just addicted to the crisis now. But they're not. They have a very legitimate point, and it needs to be heard.
I wonder how much of this is drawn from the fact that we're so reliant on technology and specifically social media, because there's some advantages to social media, as we know, like in times of an emergency, and this is a terrible example, but it's the one that comes to mind. But in the event of a mass shooting, I have seen social media apps, platforms offering those within the vicinity of that shooting to be able to check in, to let their friends and family on social media know that, hey, I'm safe, I managed to get out. And I think that's a really invaluable tool, just to let people in your life know you're okay. But we also know that for every advantage that social media comes with, it's kind of got its own level of twists and distortions to make it a very ugly tool. To your point about spreading conspiracy theories or undermining with posts and opinions about whether or not the pandemic is real, et cetera, all of that is exacerbated by the fact that social media has no filter. And maybe there's got to be a real close examination to the way we are able to use some of these things.
It's not really the filter that's the problem. It's the fact that outrage sells on the web, and the people who run social media sites care about monetizing views. And because outrage sells, they decided, okay, we'll sell outrage. We don't care. It really doesn't matter to us as long as people are engaged, as long as they show them ads, we do not care. And you're right, we have really messed up social media. And I say that as a techie, I say that as someone who, programs computers for a living. We have, in a lot of ways, we have created technology and unleashed it on the world without thinking how it's going to be.
No, you've missed the point again. You're again hearing what someone else told you. Oh, we unleashed technology on the world. No, the problem is people who hear what they want or take what they want from whatever they're shown. That's the problem. So the other thing I didn't mention yet, keeps going on about the leaders. You get up in the morning. Hello, Chomo. Yes, Chomo does do exactly what I'm about to say. You get up in the morning and think, oh, I wonder what Prime Minister Trudeau thinks I should be doing right now. Do you do that? You look at your Facebook and go, this is what I must think now. Because if you do, you're the fucking problem, not the computer.
So from my living room, thanks to the power of the internet, is kind of proof to that.
Well, oddly enough, they did think that it was going to be this big. They did think that it was going to change the world. But consider the fact that the vast majority of the foundations of the internet and kind of the unwritten rules on which the internet has been founded were created by genteel academics who were used to debating with each other, and they kind of assumed that, well, we can just ban the rare troublemaker, but the vast majority of people are just going to debate, and they're going to come to some sort of a conclusion, and we're going to exchange facts, and we're going to all get informed and learn more about each other because that's what we do, right? Well, that's not how the real world ended up working out. They were not really anticipating the amount of bad faith and abuse that would come. And really,
he might as well be talking about the Gutenberg Press. Do you know who made the internet? The army. A bunch of army boys made it. Do you know what its purpose is? It's that you cannot stop the information going from one computer to another by destroying a third one. Its entire purpose is to evade censorship. There was no genteel academics involved. Do you know what defense contractors are? Old men with lots of money that see things coming and plan out ways to kill the most number of people possible as efficiently as possible and think of what other people planning the same thing against them would do. There were no genteel or academics about it.
Again, and get us in that feedback loop of validation and paying for this license to be selfish assholes sometimes.
But because he's paid to fix computers all day, right? If they didn't break, he'd be out of a job. If he did his job correctly, he'd be out of a job because he fixes computers. He's an expert on human psychology. It's like saying you sell cell phones. So because people talk about, people call the police on the cell phone and help through crisis, you're like a crisis intervention worker almost.
Being educated about certain things and not, going, Googling the first thing we agree with and say, oh, by the way, I know better than the doctors and I know better than public health officials and I have questions. And even though they've been answered 1,000 times, I'm going to pretend that they haven't and then I don't trust them anyway. Like that has to stop. We can't do that. That's not how science works. That's not how the world works. That's not how a healthy society works. Every society that has tried this in the past has been destroyed in one way or another. They have collapsed.
Greg, we're just up against the clock, so we got it like just a couple minutes here. But is there a society, is there a nation out there right now that is actually doing a pretty, I don't know if anyone could be capable of doing a perfect job throughout this pandemic, but maybe an example that we should be looking at more closely and saying, this is how it's supposed to be done?
I would say New Zealand is a great example of how to deal with the pandemic. Yes, they have the advantage of being an island, but they took it seriously. They took it together as a community.
Advantage.
Japan has really done
moron.
its best. No one.
With everything running on a skeleton crew, how do you patrol around an island and make sure nobody shows up? Papua New Guinea's full of fucking COVID because people are showing up, dumping off guns, and leaving with marijuana. There's no money to track. They don't know exactly what's going on. Oh, it's an island, so it's easier. Really? Australia's a bigger island, like bigger with less people. There's a lower density. It should be even easier, right? Oh, wait, it's bigger, so it's got a larger perimeter. Right, it fronts on two oceans, doesn't it?
When you exercise just to see and look across the pond and say, well, these countries are certainly doing a better job. What lessons
if you take care of people, they'll generate the profit.
Good point. Yeah, that's a very good point, Wills.
They're the goose that lays the golden egg, and if you mistreat them, and if you forget about them, and if you neglect them, and if you keep on fighting with each other, you're just killing that goose.
And we want those golden eggs. Greg, appreciate you.
Well, you are, Stu. If you're talking about businesses, no, that doesn't apply because the way the world is run keeps so many people below the poverty line that you will never run out of your so-called golden gooses, which is his workers. We're pretending we see them as golden gooses. No, you don't. He's identifying with the ownership class, and he's not. He's paid to fix computers that if they were fixed properly, wouldn't break. That's right. You're talking about governments. Governments don't have to operate at a profit. It's like central banks that are not required to trade at a profit. A huge significant portion of the foreign exchange trade in the world is at a loss 24/7 because central banks aren't required to trade at a profit. The Canadian government spent $5 billion in $5 billion in one day trying to adjust the price of the Canadian dollar and got it to change like 2 cents temporarily, and it would go back down instantly. They thought they could just buy enough sell and buy enough Canadian dollars at certain rates, they would affect the price. No, you won't. Everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the face.
The magic of springtime is upon us.
Smart people surround themselves with people that are smarter than themselves. Stupid people surround themselves with people that are stupider and then try to make themselves indispensable, irreplaceable. Right. It's like if they fix the elevators correctly, they won't get called back in 3 days to fix them again. I could make this one about smart and stupid, but like the vast majority of drivers think they're good drivers, and the vast majority of drivers are bad drivers. They all think they're good drivers. That was about smart and stupid.
Still cancer-free today, which is incredible. You mentioned hard tumors, is that correct? You want to move this area, so tell us how soon we might see advances there.
Well, I think, so already by using the immune system to fight cancer or promoting its activity, certain tumor types have been transformed already. That would include melanoma, the nastiest form of skin cancer, benefiting. And we hope that cell-based approaches are another way of expanding the reach of immunotherapy.
I'm not even listening because you just misused words.
Okay,
you're
I'm
supposed
playing
to know.
Haboot Cannabis. Music. Hey, Cuckoo, stop the music. Looking for tips on how to talk with your teens about cannabis? Visit drugfreekidscanada.org for more tools to help start the conversation. drugfreekidscanada.org.
Holy fuck.
Have you ever been arrested, charged, or fingerprinted by the police for holding, smoking, or using cannabis? Now that cannabis has been decriminalized in Canada, receiving a full pardon can be as simple as contacting Canada or visiting pardons.org and requesting your record to be revoked. And if you act now, your application and pardon process may be 100% free, courtesy of the Flower Corporation. So contact Pardon Canada today by calling 47